Hello, everybody. Welcome to the fourth episode of Kyle's Corner. Today, I am joined with the tallest man on BookTube, my great friend, really great reader, really great reviewer, tall guy reads. Alex, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. My name is Alex. As Kyle said, I am the runner of Tall Guy Reads, the channel. I primarily focus on fantasy and science fiction, but I do read a bunch of other stuff as well: historical fiction, horror, general fiction, whatever it may be. I've definitely done a combination of like reviews and TBRs and wrap ups and other types of videos about like book recommendations and stuff. But yeah, I'm excited to be here. Kyle's been talking about this for a few weeks now, and I've been looking forward to it ever since he shared the idea.
Just real quick, before we went live, I told my wife had literally just left the room. And before we went live, I told Alex, I was like, oh, my wife said that I banished her and she's being melodramatic about it because I knew she'd hear me. And she just texted me and she's like, those are a bunch of lies. So, yeah, thanks so much for joining me, Alex. I've been looking forward to this bit of scheduling for a little bit there. But
Yeah.
Alex is one of my close friends here on BookTube, and we always have great conversations. So I wanted to get you on fast. We are both taking time out of our day to not reading Lightbringer,
Like,
which
exactly.
was what we should be doing. We shouldn't be doing this stream. We should be watching
I am
this.
shocked I haven't finished the book yet, to be
Me
honest.
too. I honestly, hey man, how's it going? Thanks for joining us. I honestly thought for sure I'd finish it in 2 days. And then what
Yeah.
happened is I read a bunch of it like the day it was released, and then nobody I knew had started it. Like they were all waiting on their copies and stuff. And I was like, well, I'll read Blood Over Brighthaven for a little bit. And then that like just killed my pacing. So now I've just been reading it slower, but I think I will finish it today. I have like
Yeah.
20% left.
Okay. Yeah. I'll probably in the same boat. I read a bunch. Like came on Tuesday. Probably read a bunch like Wednesday. I think I read a ton, like 200 to 300 pages of it. And then the last couple of days, I just haven't really like read it here and there. And every time I pick it up, I'm just like, wow, I don't want to put this down. It's so good. And I just hit an
Yeah.
awesome scene where I like have to comment about it or something. And then I put it down and I'm like, well, I don't want to pick it back up until I know I have at least a good chunk of time to be able to read it because I don't want to like get invested in something. And because I can just tell everything is ramping up and I want to make sure I can just read it
Yeah,
all.
that's
Also,
a
I'm
big
very nervous because I haven't obviously read any reactions of the end from people who have finished it, but I've seen general reactions, and it seems like there's some stuff to come, and I'm bracing myself for that. So
the character stuff in this book is just next level. Like I've always really liked Pierce Brown's characters.
mhm.
But the plot is usually so forward from momentum, and then in the sequel trilogy, like a lot of people were split up for long periods of times. So
Yep.
it's like his ability that leveled up with characterization wasn't able to shine until this book of like just characters ping ponging off each other with all of their histories. And I'm
Yes.
just loving that aspect of this book so much. Like there's some conversations where I'm like, this is what I've wanted from this series
I
for like
know.
5 books.
As there's like been a couple of situations where characters will finally meet after books of me wanting them to meet and like either lash it out or talk about something. And it happens in this book, like huge scenes, like back to back. And I'm just like, wow, this is what I've been waiting for so long. And yeah, it's really good. I was nervous for it. I didn't really know what to expect because I was like, Dark Age just really just pushed everyone in that series to the darkest point, like lived up to the title and everything. And I get nervous when authors are like, "Oh, I took the last book and split it." And I'm like, "Okay, does that mean that this next book is just going to be a ton of setup and it's going to be very clear? Like, you're just save everything for the last book?" And I just don't feel that way at all. Like, I think um, he's probably split it because there's just too much going on. There's too much to happen, and I like it because it allows like some of those character moments to feel a little bit not slowed down, but it allows them to breathe a little bit more than they might have if this was just one 800-page book or something.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm loving it. Like it doesn't feel like setup at all. Like I'm sure the last book will be like, nuts, but um I'm really liking this one. Esme says I was gonna wait to read Lightbringer until book 7 come out, but the FOMO is getting to me, so don't mind me doing a binge read of Red Rising next month. Yeah, absolutely do it. I honestly
Do it.
think I will reread the whole series next year with all the
I think so
context,
too.
like before Red God comes out. Um Also, Kevin is here. Hey, Kevin. We will
Hey,
definitely talk
Kev.
about Stephen King, I'm sure. And hey, Jay, how's it going? Yeah, so I'll probably finish that book today. And I'm also reading Blood Over Bride. You haven't read Sword of Kagan yet, right?
I have not actually. No, I at this point, I don't know when it was. It must have been some point last year where they did like the Kickstarter for that special edition of it. I think that was
Yeah,
last year.
it's
And I
coming
was like,
out
oh,
soon.
I think yeah, it seems like it's nearing the end. And I was like, well, I want to read it before that comes. So I'm running out of time because it definitely seems like that's wrapping up. So hopefully I can get to that pretty soon.
Yeah, I mean, Sword of Kagan is incredible. I think I like it
Yeah.
more than Blood Over Brighthaven, but like they're both really good. Emma Wong is a very, very good author.
Did
Baron
was that
is here.
advertised that was going to come out? I feel like, I mean, I to be honest, I wasn't paying attention following the release of that, but it seems like out of nowhere that kind of came out. Or
Yeah, she just kind of so if you sign up to her newsletter, it's like
yeah.
she was like, "Hey, I'm going to release a book." And then she was like, "Oh, do you guys want arcs?" And then I was like, "Yes, please give me an arc." And then she was like, "Okay, I'll give you guys an arc." And then like, time went by and then she was like, "Here's the arc. It comes out in 2 weeks. Sorry, I was late." And I was like, "Oh, well, I think it was 3 weeks."
Yeah.
Um but yeah, so it was very like, and that's how I feel like self-pub kind of goes sometimes.
Yeah. It's not a bad thing. I mean, sometimes I'd rather that than, hey, this comes out in 15 months. Brace yourselves. What's up, Ryan?
Hey Ryan, how's it going? I need to restart my reread. No one I'll do it. I'm finally reading Mistborn. How are you liking Mistborn? I find sometimes when people go to that when they're more experienced, they don't like it as much.
I know.
All right, thanks for dropping in, Esme. Talk to you later. Um,
Oh, Baron, I saw that.
yeah, it looks really, really dope. Like I would love a special edition of Watership Down. Have
I
you read
love
that
that
book,
book.
Alex?
A
Yeah.
long time ago.
Oh
I read
yeah.
that in probably high school, freshman year of high school, I think was when I read it last. But that's a book I should reread soon because that was like,
Don't do the audiobook. Don't do what I did. I did
why?
not.
Is it terrible?
It's Peter Capaldi, who I really like as an actor.
Yeah.
But he was not it for the. I think Baron even Baron read it for the first time with on that, and at the end he was like, the audiobook was not the way to go, and I was like, yeah,
Oh,
I did not like this experience. Uh, he just makes everybody super Scottish, and like I don't know, like I didn't appreciate the voices that he made for everybody. Yeah,
one thing I hate is when I don't have room. Like I have the availability to fit something in on audio, but I don't have it in to fit it the ability to fit it in on physical. So I'll put on the audio and I really dislike the narrator and I'm like, but I really want to read this book, but I genuinely have no time to do it physically, but I have time to do it on audio. And then I'm just like faced with a dilemma. And usually it ends up just not reading at that point, but that always stinks. I feel like that's
yeah,
happened
I
quite a
know.
bit
That happens
lately.
to me all the time. Like, I am slowly rereading like the Bernard Cornwell like Uhtred stories,
Yep.
and I'm just doing them on audio. But I always have like a bunch of audio stuff going on. But I'm like, but I can fit these in so quickly via audio. So I don't know. It's just happening slow. How's it going? Yalk here gave Clash of Kings 4 stars, so we're banning them from the
What?
chat right now. uh, I I just finished a Dance with Technically, no, I have like 3 chapters left of like the audio, but I'm like, I know I'm gonna finish
You're
soon. But
pretty, yeah. Yeah.
I did like the audiobook like fan made ones from the YouTube channel for this one, and it was so nice to just be able to listen to A Song of Ice and Fire because I can't do
And properly.
yeah, I can't do Dotrice,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. I've tried them for parts of this read along, and every time I do, I feel like I start off, I'm like, "Oh, it's not that bad." And I like, I see why some people just aren't bothered by it, but I feel like after a while, I'm just like, I'll hit a really heavy scene that because this is a reread, I know that how heavy a scene could be, and I'm just like, "Why is this not landing for me as much? Like, it's not as climactic." And then I will go back and read it physically. I'm like, "Ah."
Yeah, like exactly. And sometimes a narrator, like you're like, oh, this is a good book, but this narrator's just not working for me. Um, I DNF'd the Trade of Barry Cormorant like last year because I hated the narrator.
The
Like
narrator's really bad.
I just
I
got like
would say to
3 or 4
everyone who
chapters
wants to
in.
read that book,
Yeah,
yeah,
and then Jimmy just released his review and I loved it. And he was
that
like,
book's
the
awesome.
narrator's not good. And I'm like, yeah, exactly. So I want to read that physically at some point. Hello,
Yeah, the
Jake. No,
narrator,
we are
like,
just starting, so you are here
yeah,
on time.
the compression of that audiobook or something, maybe the voice, I don't know what it is, but it sounds like a calculator. Like, I remember trying to listen to it, and I was like, "Why does this sound so not human?" I felt
Yeah, I know
and so I
it
just
felt
could
very
not do it.
bizarre. Yeah.
Yeah.
American
American
Psycho, I would
Psycho.
love to read. I've loved the movie. Yeah, Ryan, I totally agree, and I do not agree with other Ryan,
RJ.
aka RJ. Like, I think he's just trolling. Hey, Chadia, how's it going? Nice to see you. Um, so, other than Red Rising, I feel like you and I have been reading a lot of the same stuff this year. What are some of like your
Mhm.
highlight series or like books in general this year so far?
Okay. This year, trying to think back. All the way back in January, I read, like, Jade Legacy, I think I read in January. So Jade Legacy,
Man, Jade
for
Legacy is
sure.
so good.
Assassin's Fate, so, like, the rest of that series, Realm of the Outer Links, really good. I'm, like, blanking on, specifics. Some of the Malazan books so far have been awesome. I love Memories of Ice, like,
Yeah, Memories of Us is great.
truly. Um, I don't know. I've
Uh,
read quite a bit, and I'm like,
yeah, there's a lot of overlap. Ian, I don't know if you want me to answer this question. Alex, what do you listen to?
it's usually, to be honest, I'm slower than Kyle at audiobooks, but I'll be like, I probably like 1 point. I start off everyone at like 1.75, and then I will adjust. Sometimes it'll be like 2, a little over 2, and that's all based on the narrator. Sometimes it'll have to be like, if it's a really strong accent or something, I have to put it down slower because it just won't work. I won't be able to understand it. But rarely faster than over 2. Kyle, what are
Rarely
yours? What's your
faster than
speed?
over 2. No, well, over 2 for damn sure. Uh, hold on, I'm just telling Ryan that Anita is trolling. Don't listen to her. She hasn't read it, I don't think. So okay, so I start every book at 2.8. That is, if I just start it, turn it on,
Holy
I
man.
started at 2.8. But then I adjust it all the time. Like I don't usually have a consistent speed, but like the lowest I'll go is like 2.5 usually. Like I don't even know what would make me go lower than 2.5. I have a concussion, maybe, like, genuinely. Actually, when I did have a concussion, I did have to listen slower, so that's it. But
That'll
if
do it.
if I'm tired, I'll lower it. If I'm driving, I'll lower it because something about the sound being all around me instead of just in my ears makes it a little bit harder. So I'll
That's
lower
very
it.
true. I can always listen to
Yeah.
it faster if I have like headphones on, um,
Yeah.
and I'm like doing tasks. That's like the max speed I can listen to. Driving, I can listen to it fast, but it depends on the cars. Like
Yeah.
we have 2 cars, and one of our cars has much better sound, like a sound system, than the other one. And when I'm in like the smaller car, I'm just like, wow, this I can't understand it at all. So it ends up going pretty slow. But
Yeah. I was like, yeah, travel, even like just like how loud it is outside, how fast you're going. Like I was going taking a trip and I was reading Dark Age and it was just so loud in the car on the highway that like every time Tim Gerald Reynolds talked, I just like couldn't hear it. And
yeah.
like I was like, I gotta switch to a louder book. Like I can't listen to this.
I pulled up my Goodreads. We had some McCammon, Boy's Life.
Oh, Boy's Life is
Um,
incredible. You read that this year?
Boys
Oh yeah, you just read that
I literally
recently. You
just
went
read
all
it.
back
Yeah,
in.
yeah,
Yeah,
loved
that seems
that.
like a book you were born having already read.
I know, I know. Well, we both read Shadow and Summer. You've already read Betrayal and Winter,
Yeah,
and you
Betrayal
said
and
you
Winter was
liked.
really good.
You said you liked it better. I
Yes.
enjoyed Shadow and Summer.
Yeah, me
I
too.
didn't. I didn't really know what to expect going into it, and it was not really what I expected. But I think in a good way. I think it was. Like people were like, "Oh, it's going to be so slow." So brace
Yeah.
yourself. And I was like, I don't know if it was so slow. I just felt very zoomed in compared
I
to
think
a lot of fantasy.
it was slow, but yeah, it was slow
Yeah.
because it was very zoomed in. Like it was dealing with one event,
Hmm.
you know. But I thought it was really good. I had no like problems with it at all.
Yeah.
Betrayal of Winter is again like it's more zoomed out a little bit. Like I guess there's more stuff happening. There's like more than one location, which already kind of helps. Um, but it's still like pretty contained overall. Like
Yeah.
it's really about like one or two things.
Is that forward in the future, like a good chunk of time? Or is
I
it
think it's 13 years ahead.
okay? Is each I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure each book like that, and then
I
it
think so.
like
Yeah.
yeah, that makes sense.
Um, Anita has a good question here after all of her trolling that I was ignoring. What are some new authors you want to try, like new to you, Alex?
Well, There's a few. There's one author I just read this month for the first time, and granted, they don't have like a ton published, but it's a horror writer named Philip Fracassi, and I read 2 books, Gothic and Boys in the Valley, and both were like blew me out of the water. I was just like, this is some of the best horror I've read in a long time, and it's like super good. It's very reminiscent of like classic horror from like the 70s, but it's a little bit darker and more I don't know how to describe it. I guess like there's more of a modern like flair to it in the sense that he's a little bit more willing to push characters and stuff into situations that might not have been allowed in the 70s. But those are both really good. And Boys in the Valley is like about an orphanage at the turn of the century where a bunch of boys are like living a really terrible life by priests that just like every horror story you've ever heard about an orphanage is like all lumped into this book. And then eventually this like spirit comes and causes a group of these kids to kind of turn evil and revolt against the people that they're masters. And it sounds very simple, but it's really good. It's kind of like Lord of the Flies, but
yeah, it sounds like it would be really good.
Yeah. And then the other one, Gothic, is about basically a haunted desk that a writer who's really struggling gets a gift for his birthday of a desk, and it ends up causing him to write really well, but also causes him to go absolutely crazy. And that reminded me of like Stephen King-ish, that had like dark half vibes in it and stuff, but
What is the author's name again?
Violent. Philip Fracassi.
Philip Fracassi. Nice. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll
definitely check him out.
These sound good.
Yeah.
I'm not as well versed in horror as I would like to be. Like I mostly stick to Stephen King. So last year I tried to diversify. I read some Shirley Jackson.
Yeah.
I read some William Peter Blatty, but
yeah, it's definitely a genre. I mean, there's a lot of horror writers I want to read that I just haven't read.
Yeah,
so
of course.
Hoping to get to that. Newer authors, new to me, like there's some authors I've dabbled in that I want to read more of, like GGK. I only really read Lions of Alverson. Tad Williams, I've only read the 2 books. I want to read more of Tad. And some of his other series, I really want to try like Otherland and stuff because I want to see how he does kind of a more sci-fi-ish vibe.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a
I bought Otherland not that long ago. I want to get into it at some point, but I will probably get it after at least Memory Star and Thorn. I don't know if I'll wait till after all of Orsenard, but
yeah.
I want to try Brian Lee Durfee pretty soon. I might
I need to read
this
him.
month. So technically I started this author this month, but like I'm reading Daughter of the Empire right now, which is really, really good. But I was planning to try Janny Wirtz's solo stuff. If not in August, in September probably. R. Scott Baker is up for me soon.
Baker. Yeah,
I know you and RJ and Jimmy really love him. So,
are you starting with Janny Wirtz? Are you starting with Curse of the Mistwraith? Or are you going into
Ride Hell's Chasm?
Okay, yeah,
the standalone.
Yeah.
And then the Rogue here says worst books you've read since starting BookTube. Skullsworn, not no doubt, ain't no doubt. I also really hate the Midnight Library. The longer I sit away from Midnight Library, I really
you do hate that book.
Yeah, Alex is like, I've heard about this.
You do really detest that
one. What about you, Alex? I can probably answer for you because Alex.
Yeah,
Well, okay, so one of mine, actually, that's not true. That's just expectations. I was going to say Faithful and the Fallen, but that's not actually true. That's more like unmet expectations with that one.
Yeah, I feel like there's a difference between books that I give like 3 stars to and are like just all right, or they don't live up to expectations, and then books that I like truly despise and want to put down. And a lot of times, if I really don't like a book, like 20% in, I will just delete it from my Goodreads and I will just never bring it up in any video ever. And
oh, I know what my least favorite of the year is. It is not Skullsworn. Do you know what it is? We didn't finish it. 11th Cycle.
Oh my god. I totally forgot that I tried to read that book. I read like 80 pages of that and I was like, yeah, this is now. Nope. Yeah. Not gonna happen.
Yeah.
Granted,
absolutely.
I wonder how it would have been if I went in reading that without any context of anything.
For sure, yeah.
I
Uh,
probably would have read it and been like, "It's just not that good." But
I wonder how if I tried it on audio, because I think the audio I don't focus on prose as much on the audio, so, like, the weird phrasing might not have, like, really triggered, like, a reaction in me, so I might have just
mhm.
been able to enjoy the story, which people say is good, but, yeah, that was for sure the worst book that I've read,
Yeah.
by
Basically,
far.
everyone's talking about it, and it was just very controversial, and I was like, "You know what? I'm just gonna try it. I'm gonna see how it is." And I had it on ebook, and I was like, "I might as well, try it." I was like, "I'll try to get to, like, 100, page 100 and see how I could do." And I definitely didn't make it to page 100, but it was, I don't know, it just
Yeah,
wasn't my
I
vibe,
I think I
but
made it to chapter 5. Ryan really wants us to try Kristoff. Have you tried Kristoff?
I actually don't. I mean, I actually have not read, but I do wanna try Kristoff. And I know, like, I honestly have no idea if how what to expect, and I also don't know where to start. I know people are like, "Oh, start with Empire of the Vampire, like, you like vampire stuff, try it." Um, so maybe that, but I also like completed series, and if I like it, it'd be nice to read, like, Nevernight and try Nevernight and see if I like it, but Nevernight's also
I
shorter.
I read 2 chapters of Empire of the Vampire, and I did not officially like, I physically DNF'd it, but I mean, like, I didn't, like I'm not like, "I'm never reading this."
Yeah.
I had a hardcover, and I was like, "Well, I don't want this hardcover if it's as terrible as people are describing it to me." So I was like, "Well, I'll see if I'm gonna DNF it." And then I started it, and I was like, "I don't like this at all." But then my hardcover was signed, and I was like,
Yeah,
"Oh,
mine's
I
fine
didn't
too.
know that."
Yeah.
So I was like, "Well, I don't wanna get rid of it." And I was like, "But I also don't wanna read more of this book to see if I really like it." So I just put it down for now. So I will come back to it, but it's not looking good for me on Empire of the
Yeah.
Vampire 'cause,
I do wanna try them. I
yeah.
haven't yet. I don't
Have
know.
you
We'll see.
RJ says, "Alex, you should read
Uh,
Sekulina by what RJ, what are we doing here? By
no,
Frascassi? I'm so
no,
sorry to this author, but I can't say that word."
that's Philip for that's the one I was talking about earlier, but he's,
Oh, okay. I
yeah,
didn't even know. Okay.
it's Sakulina, I guess. I think, oh, we lost Kyle. I don't know if, Sakulina is a novella or a short story collection. I don't know. RJ, you're gonna have to tell me. I'm pretty sure it's a novella. Um,
Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that.
no
Um,
worries. I was just saying Sakulina, I think it's a novella by Fracassi. And he like started he made his name for himself in like really small horror community with short fiction. So like short story collections, and I feel like a lot of horror authors do that, but
yeah, I
horror
mean, well,
novels a different
you
beast.
can get really straight into, like, a horror short story and then out, and it can be, like, scarier because you get less information.
Yeah.
One really good, like, a horror novella that I think you would really like, I don't think you've read it, is Hellmouth by Giles Christian. Have you read that?
I have not actually.
Oh, dude.
That's another author I would like to try.
Yeah, so that's the only thing like that, like, the rest of his stuff is just straight historical fiction is what I can tell, and then, like, Lancelot is kinda, like, kind of historical fantasy-ish, but Hellmouth is, like, medieval horror, and it is really good, like, I really, really liked it,
Mhm.
and it's based on
Nice.
when you hear what it's based on at the end, so, like, you go through the story and you're like, "What is happening here?" And then, it goes off and you're like, "Whoa." And then at the end, he has little author's notes that explaining the inspiration for the story. And even just like the real life story is like pretty creepy. But then like,
Wow.
the stuff that happens in it is really good. Um, the Rogue says, "I've heard Durfee stuff described as grim, dark, faithful, and Nepal, and me too." That's exactly how I've heard it described. So,
Kyle, does that make you excited or not excited?
I don't know. The only person that I have seen really dislike Durfee is Leanna. And
I
like
know,
Leanna's my
yeah.
friend, but like, I just like that doesn't mean much to me. Like, but watch. So she didn't like Stories of Your Life and Others. And I was like, I hadn't read it yet. And I was like, how dare you, Leanna? You are ruining our friendship. And then I read a couple stories in it and I was like, Leanna, I think you might be right. I think this is extremely mid, but don't tell anybody. And she was like, I'm glad you see it my way. So
Yeah, that's talk about you not liking something. Are you still reading that or did you put it down?
I finished it. No, I finished it. I
Okay.
had the audiobook and I just like I had one story left and I didn't want
Oh,
to
okay.
read it and then like read like Spacebringer as well. So I just listened to the last story. But like it was fine. It's just like Escalation is so good. There's one story I hated in Stories of Your Life though. I did not like it at all.
Yeah. I agree with what Jake says that you should alternate Hobb and GGK until you caught up on both. I do want to read more GGK, but you should definitely keep going with Hobb. Where are you? Have you read Fool's Errand
I
yet?
have not read Fool's Errand yet. Listen,
I can't even talk to you about Hobb until you read that book because
listen. I know. The thing is it's so hyped up to me. Like, not like I'm afraid I'm not gonna like it. It's like I'm so sure that I'm gonna love it. Like, everybody that I align with on opinions is like Fool's Errand is where it's at, and I'm just like, I don't want to half-ass read it. Like, I'm just like, I want to like read it. Like, like Lord of Emperors. So I binged Sailing to Sarantium because I just didn't expect to like that book as much. And then I expected to binge Lord of Emperors. But as I was reading Lord of Emperors, I was like, this book is like too good. Like, I actually have to slow myself down. Like, it's like things crest and then they fall off in terms of my reading speed. If something's good enough, I'm just like, nope, I have to preserve this. And that's what I feel like Fool's Errand will be. So I don't know. I really want to read it in August.
I think what's good about Fool's Errand is that you can read it and you could literally just take a break for a while if you wanted to. Like, it's almost like, yeah, it's book one in a trilogy, but it's almost a standalone. It's like the most standalone. Granted, Fool's Assassin's kind of the same way, but Fool's Errand is more so definitely like the most standalone-ish book, I think, in the whole series. So if that helps, if that encourages you to read it sooner.
I honestly, so next month, like, I'm finishing all my reads by August 1st, so I have a clean slate. And next month, the only thing I'm reading for sure is I started a book club, and that they're reading Pure and Essie, which I've already read, but I'm just gonna listen to the audiobook, so it'll take like 2 hours.
Yeah, it's not that long either.
And then I'm gonna read Stone of Farewell. And then other than that, I'm just gonna read what I feel like reading because I've been suffering under all of these like series read-alongs and stuff. And I've been loving all the books, but it's just like the obligation. Like, now that Red Rising is gonna be done, Dance with Dragons is done, Malazan's on pause until September, hopefully. So I'm just gonna read some stuff.
Yeah.
Spyros, sorry, I don't know how to say your name. I apologize. Says that he also disliked the Five Warrior Angels, especially the last book. Interesting. So you finished the whole trilogy, and just like it was like a declining experience the whole time. I hate that.
That last book's long too.
Yeah.
It's like if never mind, I'm not gonna go into more Faith on the Fallen.
Just do it. Say what you're gonna say. Stop being so nice.
No, I was just gonna say, like, that would be like if Wrath was double its size and then we were reading it and I felt the way I felt the entire time.
I do think
1,400 pages of Wrath.
That's just Wrath and Ruin mixed together.
It is.
I think it's like Wrath, I don't know. I feel Wrath has some good stuff in it.
It does.
I was just tired of the series by that point.
There were a few things that happened at the beginning of Wrath that I really disliked because it's just a common theme that I hate when authors do.
Yeah, me too. We talked about some of that stuff. Alex, say something mean. Tell me what you think of Dan Simmons and his what's the book you didn't like? Well, yeah, I mean, he's absurd with nipples, but I mean,
you cannot read a Dan Simmons book. You cannot read 5 pages of Dan Simmons book and not get some description of nipples at some point.
I think he reined himself in for Hyperion because he's like, I got the one story that's going to be all sex, so I'm gonna put all the nipples in there, and then the rest of the book was like relatively normal, and then
he was like, oh, this is nice.
It's funny because I've become like more attuned to like male writing women, like as my reading has increased like over time.
Yeah, same.
But when I was younger, I definitely didn't really notice or care, at least as much. And even then, I remember picking up The Terror. I was like 19, and I was like, this guy has described nipples on every woman for the past like 10 pages. And I like, that's not the reason I stopped reading it, but it didn't help. I was just like, I think I'm done with this book. Like,
oh, yeah, Dan Simmons. Without going into like him as a person, for the books that I've read, I really loved Hyperion and Fall, and I did like Fall of Hyperion. I haven't read the other two. Summer of Night was kind of like his It book, kind of like his coming of age horror book. Did really enjoy that, and I would recommend that to anyone who's looking for like kind of something with similar vibes of Boy's Life and It, but kind of more closer to It, more just with what's the actual plot. And Ilium and Olympus were
those are the ones.
I wish it was one book and It should have just been one book. It did not need to be two. Olympus didn't need to exist, but
Yeah.
it did. And I do want to read The Terror. I want to try it just because
Yeah, I'm
every
gonna try
time
it
I
again.
post a horror video, everyone's like, "Oh, you got to read The Terror."
Have you watched The Terror?
I actually haven't,
Dude, The
and
Terror is
that's another
unbelievable.
reason.
It
I
is
know
it
that's
is
another
so
reason why I
good.
want to read it, because that show looks awesome.
Yeah, I loved that show. Like, I went down like a Wikipedia deep dive. I started reading nonfiction about that stuff after. Like, it was really, really good.
Yeah,
Jake says
it's
Hyperion and Fall are the only two Dan Simmons books I've read, so choose to believe others are similarly good. I admire your optimism.
yeah. Well, I mean,
But to be fair, I've only read 2.5, and I mean,
yeah,
Hyperion is just so good that I
he's
would give
written
him more
he's
tries.
written a lot,
Yeah,
and so I feel like I don't know. It's also he's also interesting because like every book is almost a different. He writes in so many different genres. Like I feel
yeah,
like Hyperion and Fall of Hyperion are clearly science fiction. Summer of Night's horror, and sometimes it's like you'll pick up one of those books and you're just like, wow, this seems like a different author. Except again with Ilium and Olympus, I felt like this is just a really this just read too much like Hyperion, but just was nowhere near as good.
interesting.
Even though the plot had nothing, it was just like the one Dan Simmons book where I was like, yeah, I could tell this is Dan Simmons, and it was just, I don't know, but
It's rare that like one person's thoughts on a book will make me not want to read it, but like your ire while reading Olympus, I donated
Olympus,
those books.
yeah,
I was like,
yeah.
I mean, I
Try
might read them at
Ilium.
some point. Yeah, like
Yeah.
I still could get like an ebook or something, or like buy them again if I. But I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm not going to read these soon. I'm going to wait till I forget Alex's comments at the very least. So
Yeah, there's just like the general plot was really entertaining, but there's just some weird shit that happens in those books where I was just like, God, why?
Like, what the fuck's going on?
Literally, why? Why is this happening?
Speaking of what the fuck is going on, I have not read Tender as the Flesh,
No,
but again, Baron hated that book so much that I might
did.
never read it. Like I honestly like Baron will like DNF books pretty often, or he'll say that a book's not good, but like you can tell he's kind of just like not joking around, but like he hated Tender as the Flesh. Like I really I don't think I'll ever read that book.
Yeah, Baron will DNF books, and sometimes it's like it's almost definitely like a timing thing. Like
yeah, for
he's
sure.
just like, I just don't have time for this book right now, or I'm not in the right headspace. Tender as the Flesh was the one where he was just, man, that was so brutal. He was like the longest book. It took him forever to read. It's 180 pages.
Yeah, it's super small. Yeah.
But I've heard, I mean, for the people that I know a few people that love that book, but there have been plenty of people that have just said this is just over the top gratuitous cannibalism.
Yeah, I don't know how. I don't think I
kind of want to try it because I'm intrigued, but I also am not expecting much at all.
You did read,
but
so I DNF'd a book that you read and loved, but I didn't. It was more of like a not the right time headspace thing, which is oh man, what is it called? Otessa.
Oh, Labnova.
Labnova. Yeah, yeah. I read like 10% of that book. I was like, nope.
RJ just read that, and it was some of the funniest commentary throughout the entire. He was like, "This book is absolutely disgusting. The most vile thing I've ever read, but I love it." I was like, that. I mean, it's a gross book. There's also a few scenes particularly that are just like, wow, I'll never get that out of my head. But I don't know. I think it was a timing thing. Definitely played. I was like in the mood for something like that.
Yeah.
Obviously, I didn't know what to expect, but I was in the mood for something like that. It was like winter, and I was like, oh, it's short. I'll try it, and it was really good. And the ending is wild.
I don't know if Kevin is still here, but I just watched like his last video where he was talking about like hot girl books. And he was like, he read A Year of Rest and Relaxation and he really liked it. And he was like, oh yeah, this is a hot girl book. And I honestly think like, I don't like that wouldn't be my terminology, but like, my expectations for like the genre of people that typically read that author, like I was like, oh, this is just going to be like, like a character stuff. Like, I don't know what I thought it was gonna be. I had no idea what it was about. I just was like, this is like a book that like, people just read when they just go to the bookstore and like books. Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And it's I like just on the was like, this is horrifying. This is not the same thing.
Yeah. There's a scene with a grape that if you've read the book, oh my God, it's disgusting. I don't know
Yeah.
if RJ's still watching, I'm sure he'll comment about it. But
Um.
yeah, it's a wild one.
What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, Tommyknockers was about as gross as I think I could handle. Have you read
Yeah,
Tommyknockers?
I
Oh,
actually have not
Tommyknockers
read
is the
Tommy
worst book I
Knockers.
read this year.
Yeah,
That's the worst
that
book
was
that.
a
Yeah,
book.
I keep forgetting.
When you
Yeah,
were reading that, that was so funny. You're like, I can't believe I have to keep reading this book. I was just like, just stop reading it. But I admire you persevered,
it's just
made it
so
through
long. I
that.
couldn't have if I could only read it physical. There's literally no way I would have finished it. I would have been like, if Stephen King came here and paid me money, I still would not finish this book. But because it was audio, I could just kind of zone out for a while, and then I would zone in, and I'd be like, "What the fuck is happening right now?" And then I would be like, "I just protect yourself, Kyle. Just zone back out."
Just gonna let this white noise in the back.
Thank you for enjoying my Tommyknockers review, Jake.
Jordan, I read that in high school. Formative. Oh my god. Jordan did Jordan 4-star or 3-star Boys Life?
She 4-starred it, but I think that's to make us not want to.
Okay.
I think it was 3 stars based on
I
what
think it
she
was
said.
3 stars. Yeah.
She was just like, "This book's mid. Like, when's something gonna happen in it?" And I'm like, you're hurting my feelings right now, Jordan.
She did read, and then she loved Swan Song, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, that's okay. Also, I was going through like my Goodreads like friend ratings for Boys Life, and it's 5 stars all the way through. Like every single person gave it 5 stars, and it was like there's a couple people that didn't leave reviews, but most of them were like, "One of the best books I've ever read. Wow, this is the absolute like tour de force. This is a mount like literally just like the most superlative praise." And then at the end, It's just Jordan 4 stars. But she's also the only woman on my
that's
my friends
true.
list
I
that has read it.
honestly,
So
yeah,
I don't know how
like,
much because it is a boy's life, but I'm like, I don't know because I feel like it's just like because I know Sarah really liked it, so I don't think like
yeah,
it's
Joanna loves it too.
yeah, it's not like gender exclusive, but I just think that maybe like just the little aspects of it, like being like a boy, like makes you connect to it more.
It's
Yeah,
just, I gave it to I actually gave it to my father-in-law to read, and he just finished it and loved it. I was like,
nice.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, Jake.
He'll read like anything. I actually also got him to read Grace of Kings too, and he read that and really liked it, which I wasn't expecting, but he did really like it. But yeah, that's a series. I'm excited to reread that someday.
Dude, I'm so excited to read Dandelion Dynasty. That's like how we became friends.
Mm-hmm.
Like you just messaged me out of nowhere.
I was like, dude, aren't you reading these books? Haven't you read these books?
And I was like,
I need someone to talk to about these books. Like, there's no one.
It's actually funny because I had seen your channel because you had just started. Like you had like 4 or 5 videos at the time. I don't like a couple videos. And I had seen Tall Guy Reads. Like I hadn't watched any of your videos yet, but I had seen people talking about it because like people knew you in the community. But I like your name wasn't on there. So and then you messaged me and I was like, who is this Alex dude? And then you were like, I don't remember what your comment was, but you commented about like your channel or something. And I was like, oh, this guy has a channel. And then like it just took me like longer than it should have to connect who you were to your channel. And then I was like, oh, I feel stupid. But we got there in the end.
It's okay. Yeah, we worked through it.
Yeah. That's true, but your stand opinions always hurt my feelings. So, Jordan hasn't read Speaking Bones. What do you think she'll think about Speaking Bones? Because I think she'll.
I think it'll be her favorite in the series.
I think so too.
I think easily.
Did you just show up, Davis? Because we said the words Dandelion Dynasty. Do you have like a springboard in your computer? Like your CPU is just like somebody's talking about Dandelion Dynasty. Like, Davis is the biggest fan of this series in the world. Number one, for sure. There's nobody that's close. And I honestly think he is just Ken Liu. That's the joke.
That's yeah.
And
probably
his
likely.
essays about this series are some of the most insightful things I've read about the series, or just like in general. So
I know you should blog those.
I know you really should just like get your thoughts out there somewhere, Davis. Besides just like Jimmy's Discord, like more people need to read it.
Yeah, I agree. I always love those insights.
Dude, I'm not gonna do this.
I used to. Mass market paperbacks, sometimes I will break the spines, and I know that's sacrilegious, but like
Dude,
sometimes it's just
like I have my copy of Oathbringer here, and I've read this book. Actually, my Words of Radiance I've read twice. So I've read this Words of Radiance twice, and the spine is still not broken.
That's crazy.
Like I'm very careful. I'm like, I do not want this broken.
I think I just get bored. I will set myself up where I'm just like 500 pages into a book, and I'm like, oh, it'd be cool to have the feeling of a fresh book after I crack the spine, and I'll do it. And I'm like, oh, now it's too late to go back. And then, yeah, yeah, exactly. I
No.
think it's insane that you were able to read Words of Radiance that many times and not break the spine.
Listen, I mean, have a couple pages fallen out of the front? Yes. But it's still the spine is still it's still
Yeah.
going.
Wait, Jordan's right. You probably just skipped like so much of the book because you just skipped over the innermost words every time.
No, so this is what you do. Watch. I will give you guys a tutorial.
Mental placement.
You wow, these are such dense pages. So you start like this, and then you just move over. So you keep moving, and then it's annoying, but then you're it doesn't break. You guys just got to get good.
Yeah. I don't try to break
Yeah,
spines, but yeah.
Yeah, if it did break, like it's not gonna throw it in the trash and start over. I just like try to preserve them. My mom actually is not allowed to borrow my books because she does not, and not even breaking spines, just like she treats them generally like trash. Am I
Mhm.
still frozen?
Your voice isn't, but your face is.
Oh, 1 second. I'm gonna. How's it now?
Loading.
Oh, I'm
Black
like
screen.
losing.
I hear you.
Yeah, it says right now my Wi-Fi is
Oh,
acting
I
up.
hate that. I
Yeah.
feel like sometimes StreamYard does that, and even if my Wi-Fi is like fully good, it'll just be like poor network. I'm like, where in the hell is that coming from? It'll just shut me out. Plenty of times where it's done that. The darkness. He's the darkness that comes before.
Okay, now how are we?
Nice.
Okay,
You're
awesome.
good.
I am now the darkness. I am Batman. So when you gonna finish the Under the Northern Sky trilogy?
Oh my god. I should do that.
Yeah, we need like a spreadsheet.
I do. I usually the thing is I've always had a spreadsheet. Like I have a TBR Google Doc, Google Sheet where I'll keep stuff.
Yeah.
And I usually just end up literally just dragging a book from the current month to the next month. I'm like, yeah, it's gonna happen next month. And just keep kind of snowballs everything.
Weren't we supposed to read Billy Summers in like September of
Oh my
2022?
god. Yeah, dude, I still need to read that book.
I know.
That might be wait, have you read that since? You haven't read that.
No, I haven't read
Okay.
it.
We should do it then. This
Next
fall.
month? Like September? Like
September.
1 year to
September.
the date of when we were
Yeah.
supposed to read it? Okay,
Yeah, let's
sounds
do
good.
it.
Yeah.
I do need to read the Cuckoo. I've heard it's the best one.
Yeah, I'm
It
gonna
seems
read The
like.
Spider this month, I'm pretty sure. Like I'm gonna
Okay.
leave it up to mood
Spider was
reading, but I'm
I need to read
pretty
the Spider.
sure that I really like the audiobooks, so that helps because I can get through
Mhm.
audiobooks quicker.
Yeah.
I'm also gonna have like a lot of moving and like just like stuff to do, so I'm gonna have extra time with audio this month. So
Yep. Yeah. That's
yeah,
nice. Yeah, I like those audiobooks. Probably the main
yeah,
reason why I picked up the Spider when I did, because I was like had a long drive or something, and I was like, oh, well, I have it on audio. Might as well just start it
yeah.
and enjoyed it.
By the way, I was gonna mention this at the beginning, but we started talking about Lightbringer. Congratulations on 5K. That is awesome.
Oh,
That's super.
yeah.
I'm super pumped for you.
I'm excited about it too. I haven't. I we we were talking about this earlier, but I have not posted a video in the last 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 3 weeks. So I was like, oh wow, 5K. And it's just like I still check throughout the month, and it was just like unplanned. I don't know. We talk about this a lot, like me, Kyle, and Jordan, where not like full burnout, but there definitely is times where it's just like just gotta take a break, and it's not like planned, and that's what happened this month. Also, this month was just chaotic as hell for me, um, and like where basement flood and all that shit, which made stuff worse.
Yeah,
But so this
that's
month was
hell.
crazy,
Yeah,
yeah. But I did film a video today, so that'll coming out,
nice.
and we'll get that back on track. But yeah, 5K subs is pretty crazy. Excited about it, and I think I'm gonna do like a Q&A type, ask me anything type live stream
Yeah,
sometime,
absolutely.
probably next week or
Yeah.
something.
I was just gonna say, like, I feel like creators just put so much pressure on themselves that like coming to terms with, because like I like even when I was starting, like I really would get like stressed out about like not making a
Oh,
video in like the right week. Like I was like, oh, I don't like, and doing that was such a negative thing for me. Like I would even just like because I was stressed out about it, I just wouldn't do any of it. So then like I was just like really inconsistent.
yep.
Whereas if I had been able to like just relax, I feel like I would have gotten more videos out. But it's just tough because, like, you feel like, especially if you have a lot of subs, like, you feel like you need to, like, give people
Yeah,
content, but,
it's
like,
a double-edged
taking
sword
taking a
sometimes.
break is, like, fully acceptable. It's like nobody
Yeah.
Alan got hit by a car. Like, if Alan can get hit by a car, like, everything's fine, like, he took time. Everything's good.
It was, it's definitely something I definitely needed to learn how to do because, like you said, the first couple of months I was doing this, if I would get so stressed. If I, like, hadn't filmed a video by, like, a certain day for that coming week, I would get, like, super anxious about it, and it was just, like, not good. So, I,
Yeah.
like, needed to learn how to do both, do it all, and so now it's kinda like, well, if I don't get a video filmed, it is what it is. I'll try to get it done soon, and I just won't worry about it. Um, I was getting a little bit stressed out this month when I was, like,
That's funny.
couldn't film
Uh,
a video, but it
for
is
for
what it is.
anybody
I'd
just
rather, like, be in
listening
good mood.
Yeah, so for anybody who's just listening, I didn't laugh at Alex's story about being stressed out about doing this. I was laughing because Tanner said, "Just came in to hear Alan got hit by a car."
Yeah.
But yeah, for sure, like taking breaks is really important and just going at your own speed.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly how I feel about it. Like, I'd rather make videos, one, that I'm excited to make, but also when I'm excited to make them, than necessarily,
Yeah,
like, force myself to put out videos because then it's just like, I have a terrible day.
yeah,
Like,
exactly.
and then the video is probably not as good as it could be anyway, so, I don't know. It's not good. Evie, she has not officially so there's a Evie actually lives in the same state as me in
Mm,
Massachusetts, but my wife has been riding all over life, and she originally was from Western New York, and her parents moved over here as well. So she's been looking for places to ride in Massachusetts. Have found one officially, um, but she has two horses, and she's just been riding them at her parents' farm, and then they have like a farm nearby that they will go to sometimes. But no, she's still looking for like a competitive place to get back into that, which I hope
nice.
she can do soon. Yeah.
We just had the World Clydesdale like event here in my like
Oh
literally
wow.
like attached to my workplace. And I just don't know anything about horses or anything that's going on. So I just thought like I just live in like a podunk town. So like they have like a horse and cow things all the time. So I just thought it was another like horse thing. Like I didn't there was even like a day
Yeah.
you could go for free and I didn't go. But then I learned like there was people like all of RJ's cousins and grandfathers came. Like literally all of Ireland flooded here. Like I literally at one point had like 100 Irish and Scottish people in my section at work.
It's the
I work at a
banshees of
restaurant,
Inisherin.
and so I was asking these guys. I was like, what's going on? Like why? And they're like, oh yeah, like we just love the Clydesdales. We just come like we flew here just to watch this show. And I was like, what? And I guess it's literally this is a big deal. And I was like, oh, I wish I had went because I didn't know that it was a big deal.
Mhm.
But horses are
Should have
not
gone.
a thing I know much about.
Yeah, it's not something I knew nothing about until I met Ridley, but then I learned a lot.
Hate to break it to you, but no one cares if when you post videos to make videos for yourself. Absolutely. And
I
it's
agree.
easy to tell people that, but like when you're in your own head, like
Yeah,
it's
especially when you're first starting. Maybe
yeah,
not first starting, but when you're like starting and you've been doing it for a little bit,
yeah.
then you start to feel like I don't know. It's just easy to fall into the trap of feeling like you need to get.
Yeah, absolutely. Tanner says, imagining a restaurant's filled with 100 RJs.
Oh my
Exactly
gosh.
right. It was. And they also, so here's just a real funny thing about like cultural differences. The first table of Irishmen I had to serve, there was like 12 of them, and they just started ordering like drinks, and they just were like, they would order everything with ice. So they'd be like Grey Goose and ice. So like to me, that's like,
Grey
uh,
Goose and
th-
Ice.
they wanted
Vodka
it
and
like on the rocks, right? So then a couple people ordered something and they didn't say with ice, but they didn't say any mix. So I was like, did you guys want those neat then? And they were all like, yeah. So like 7 of them ordered like vodka neats or whatever. And so I brought them their drinks and half of them didn't have ice. And these like collectively, all of these people were just like, we don't get ice in our drinks. And I was like, oh, you asked for
what?
them neat. And they're like, what? Like we want ice, and like they just didn't know what neat meant, but I assumed that they did.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, we would say straight. And I'm like, oh well, okay. So it was just a funny cultural difference where these guys just thought they were like not good enough for ice, I guess.
Yeah.
But
Drinks are neat.
yeah, exactly.
Nature
You
is
think
neat.
yeah, exactly. The Rogue asks, where should I go next with Cormac McCarthy?
What have you read by him so far? What's the most recent? Well, yeah, I guess overall, what have you read by him? What's your most recent thing you've read by him?
Have you read all of his
That'll
works? Or
help.
you haven't read Suttree yet, right?
I haven't read Suttree, and I still need to read the last 2 in Border trilogy, but those are the last 3. I was planning to do Crossing last month, didn't get to it, so hopefully do that soon.
Are you in Ireland, Rogue, or where are you located? Like, is this like a Europe thing in general, or just because I want to know
Neat.
so that I don't get those
Vodka
dirty looks
shades.
anymore?
Yeah, Tanner, go with Blood Meridian.
I got to read
It is
Blood Meridian soon. Jimmy gave it to me for my 12 books, so I think I want to read
Blood
it
Meridian's
slowly.
awesome. I think you will. I actually think you'll like it, Kyle.
Yeah,
Like I do, because the aspects of, I'm trying to think, the passenger that you didn't like there is a little bit of that in Blood Meridian, but I feel like there's a plot as well, but it's still very loosey goosey. It's not really about the plot at all, but
The
it's
Passenger is one I would like to reread physically. I don't think it would become like
definitely.
an all-time favorite, but like I noticed this too with Three Body Problem, where I think if there's a lot of like philosophical or like technical exposition on audio, it comes across differently to me than if I was reading it. I think it's partially also because I increased the speed on audio. Like that's partially the reason, because it sounds like people are just like Three Body Problem. This is my impression of the entire book of Three Body Problem on audio. Well, if you don't get the particle we gotta do the thing, and then if we don't do the thing will thing, and then the thing, and then the thing, and it's just like everybody panicking and saying technical terms, because that's the way the audiobook came across. Whereas I feel like if I read it physically, I would just read that normally. And so I think that really impacted because I was just like, dude, get over yourself during The Passenger. Like he would just be going on and on. So I want to reread that at some point.
That's McCarthy. But yeah, I think I'd read some other McCarthy and then go back and reread it because I do think it benefited from.
Oh, he's already read Blood Meridian.
So the Road No Country, Blood Meridian. Well, those are like the 3 most popular ones, I would say. All the Pretty Horses, I think, is a great one. That's the most recent one I read. I love that. It depends. If you want some of the more like Faulknerian ones, then try Outer Dark and The Orchard Keeper. If you want something super depraved, Outer Dark's there as well, but also Child of God. Very short, very dark. Why am I blanking on some of those?
Child of God is very dark. That's like an example of a book where I did not enjoy it at all, but I recognize that it's like really well written and like it's a good book, but
Yeah.
I have no desire to think about or read it ever again. So
it's probably, yeah. I mean, I enjoy. It's hard to say I enjoyed it. Like I enjoyed it because I love his writing style, but it's probably the book out of all the McCarthy I read that I want to reread the least.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. So yeah, I'd say All the Pretty Horses, or Outer Dark. Outer Dark's shorter. It's wild.
Evie, I need more information about what To a God Unknown is, but like I'm willing to buddy read just about anything, just like not in August. So like give me a little time there. But yeah, just drop more information, but I'm sure I'm down. RJ, you'll have to go back at some point and read what I was just saying. I kind of told you in Discord, but like there was just a bunch of Irish people at my work. And Tanner was commenting on that.
Wait, what? The one book you Blood Red, his best book I've ever. Yeah, I could see that. A lot of people would definitely feel that way. Jimmy did it back to back, literally. He did like the thing where you finish the book and then just go right back and restart it, which I could see immense benefit from if you were like totally down to do that. But
Yeah. Okay, so To a God Unknown by John Steinbeck. So I do want to read more Steinbeck. I'm probably going to read Grapes of Wrath next, but I can look into getting this one. But
so good.
Evie, if you want to buddy read Grapes of Wrath instead, because I know you've only read Of Mice and Men, I'm totally down for that. Alex abandoned our East of Eden buddy read.
I didn't abandon it. It was just
abandoned.
No, I didn't start it.
Yeah.
Trust me, I love Steinbeck. I just haven't started it.
No, I get it. We pushed that one down.
Trying to fit it in.
Yeah, we pushed it down for a long time.
I honestly kind of forgot about it, that it was happening that month until 2 weeks into the month.
Yeah, RJ was supposed to join us. You and RJ can read it together with Joanna, and then me and Scott will just be like, "Yep, we told you the book is really good."
Oh, I'm sure I'll love it.
Oh yeah, you'll definitely love it.
The one book that you started the other week, I don't know, did you end up putting down The Spear Cuts Through Water?
Yeah, I put it down. First of all, I wasn't going to tell Evie that, so like, how dare you out me?
Did you hear he DNF'd it?
So actually, while we're here, I DNF'd Vanished Birds too for the same reason, which is just that like, I recognize for both books the prose was really, really good, and like especially Spear Cuts Through Water because it's second person. I just like both times I was like, oh, I don't have the wherewithal to do this on audio, and I think I will enjoy them both physically better. So it had nothing to, and if anything, I'm more excited to read them physically. Like I think they'll both be really good.
Yeah.
I just was like, especially Spear Cuts Through Water, because I knew Lightbringer was coming out, and I wanted to finish Daughter of the Empire by the end of the month too. And I was like trying to just like get through it. And I was like, I don't want to do that to this book. So
yeah, that makes sense. I got a copy last week for that. I want to read that soon.
I really want to buy the physical,
but
yeah. Yeah, Evie's gonna straight murder me. I will read it physically. That's funny, Evie.
Brace yourself for a knock at the door.
Just because I DNF'd it does not mean that I did not like it. I was liking it. It was just not the right medium. I will come back to it. Which I think I've gotten better at noticing, or just like you'll never know for sure. Like your first experience with a book, like it's impossible. R.I.P. me. It's impossible to know for sure what influenced what, but like I have over listening to more audiobooks, I've definitely come to like a realization where I'm like, oh, the aspect of this is not working for me is the narration versus the book, or just like my ability to pay attention to the narration. And so look, I'm sure there's a couple casualties early on in my audiobooking experience where I was just like, oh, I did not like this book at all. And then I think that I don't like the book, but it's because I didn't like the narration and I couldn't tell the difference. So,
that makes sense. You reminded me of a book that we're supposed to be reading next month. I totally forgot about it too. I literally found it the other day. Yeah, so I didn't include it in there because I totally forgot.
Listen, you and Jordan were both overwhelmed when I mentioned that, so I was like, maybe we'll push it. But I might still read it. I don't know. I might just abandon you guys.
It depends. I have to read To Green Angel Tower and A Dance with Dragons. But A Dance with Dragons, I believe we are pushing that. That live show is pretty far back now. I think it's like September. So that could very well be a
Rick,
bridge.
This is hilarious. Rick the Reader says Evie Cuts Through Kyle, the new sequel. Evie, I don't think we've buddy read anything together ever. I didn't critique it. Evie says, I understand why Simon Jimenez's novels wouldn't work for folks, but it still makes me butthurt.
Kyle hates it.
Critique it. I did not say a single criticism of this book. I said on audio it was not the right move for me at the time.
Kyle, what do you think about? I had my Goodreads still open. What do you think about the Locked Tomb trilogy? We read those this year.
Those definitely need to reread.
Not trilogy.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Oh, I'll definitely need to reread those.
Like I mean, like if you held a gun to my head or like explain Nona the Ninth to me, I would be like, you know what? I've lived a good life. I think I'm good. So I definitely need to reread. But Nona the Ninth, I read at the wrong time. Like I do not think my rating and feelings on the book reflect that book at all. Like I just that was like 100% not the right time for me to read that book. But Harrow the Ninth is buck wild. That's the craziest book.
Harrow the Ninth is awesome. I'm excited to reread Gideon too because I feel like
I'll
there's a
understand
lot
all of the
in that
side
book.
characters and stuff
Yes.
better. Yeah,
I
absolutely.
feel the first time I read that book, I was like, "What the fuck is going? Like, what the hell is going on in this book?" Like, um, yeah, I did. I read it this month actually. Sorry, I didn't post any videos on it.
Um,
Videos will be coming on that one, but I did read it. I did enjoy it. I thought, and I actually don't even know what the opinion, like the general opinion, is on this whole thing, but I went in knowing not what to expect, other than one character, and I knew like we'd be introduced to Karsa and all that stuff, but um without spoilers, like for the first third of the book, you're really just following like the single POV storyline. And it's such a departure from anything else in the series up to that point. Cause I'm so used to like ping ponging between giant, huge character, like just so many characters and like big space and stuff. And then for 300 pages of House of Change, you're just with this one character. And I felt like that was like some of my favorite stuff in the series. And I like don't know if that's a popular thing, but I was like, wow, I hope we see more of this because I was like, Erickson's really good at this, and I feel like it just doesn't do it enough. And it's one aspect like I love the characters of Malazan, but um, if he wrote a couple of like standalone books that were just like one of these characters, like a whole book dedicated to like a journey of Quick Ben or something, I'd be like, yes, this is awesome. I need this, but because I really did like that. But yeah, House Chains was really good. Totally different than the other three, and it's
I think
probably not my favorite. That still goes to Memories of Ice, but it's definitely not my least favorite.
um, is Gardens your least favorite?
I guess so, but it's
Yeah,
it's weird
it's
because
still like a
I
really good book.
enjoyed
Yeah,
it. Yeah,
yeah. I get something has to be last, right?
yeah,
I'm excited for House of Chains. I think the first half. So here's the thing: the first half is going to be make or break on a lot of factors. If it's as dark as people say that it is, Bookborn might DNF, uh, which is well within her rights. Like I totally get it. But
yeah.
if she's able to stomach it, or if it's not as bad as people have advertised, whatever it might be, um, I do think that book might read faster for her and for me because it's like a lot of it is following one POV and then it goes back to stuff we already know. I think the first three books, it's like each time you're kind of like getting your bearings, and then like Memories of Ice, it's characters you already know, but it's setting up a new political conflict, and then like also introducing the Gray Swords, which is not my bag, the Gray Swords. But
I do think that House of Chains was pretty easily the easiest book for me to follow in the series so far. Like there
that's
might have
good.
been one storyline that was like a little bit tricky at times, but overall I thought it read the fastest for me and it was the easiest to follow. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that for the first 200 pages, it was just like it just felt like any other fantasy book, but
Right.
darker. But I do think, if Bookborn or anyone else DNF'd it for stuff in that book, yeah, you're totally allowed to. Like, I would totally understand that, and I think anyone would. But I think where it goes after that and how it connects to the previous books is really cool. So
Yeah.
definitely give it a
I've
shot.
been spoiled on that, and that has made me like it more. Like that was an
Okay.
accidental. I actually been spoiled on two major things of House of Chains. One was entirely my fault, like 100%. It was Tanner that did it, but it was not his fault at all. But then the other one was just like it was just like a miscommunication of like where things were in and it just
Oh,
and I spoiled myself on that. But I think that is awesome. So before I get to these comments about House of Chains, I just want to point out to Evie that I read the Ted Chiang the exact level of smartness it required, which is to say none at all, because it's stupid. Thank you. Moving on. Good day. No, it was fine. It just was a disappointment from Exhalation for me.
yeah.
People having some House of Chains love. Tanner forgot
I
it.
like. Yeah, I mean, I just read it, so I do remember what happens, but I could easily see this being a part of the book that just totally falls off my radar in terms of my memory of the series. One, because there's so much that happens. These books are so big. But yeah, I
Tanner,
agree. It'd be awesome.
Ictovian is the man, but he's not the man until he's the man. And before he's the man, he's a random dude that
He's
isn't
the
very
boy.
interesting. Yeah, and like
Boys
I
love
don't
it.
know. I
It's
think
full circle.
Memories of Ice, the Gray Swords would hit better on reread, but at the beginning, they were incredibly tedious, and I actually, when I finished the book, I went back and I told Josh, like Red Fury Books, I was like, "Look, man, I'm not pressuring you to un-DNF any book that you don't want to read, but as somebody
I
who thinks
know. God,
Memories of Ice is really good, but not, like, life-changingly amazing, you were, like, 30 pages from where that book got, like, incredibly much better." And I was like, I really think, a few months down the line, if
I
you just give
know.
it another
He said,
50 pages, he did say he thinks he's gonna go back to it.
yeah, I think he said it's January he wants to try it again. I was like, I hope so, because I
I
do
did
think that
not
book is
understand.
gets progressively better. He
Yeah.
literally tagged
Yeah,
me so
part
much.
part 2 is not very good, in my or not good, but it's very setup heavy, I should say. Jake said, "You literally tagged me and said you read one of the short stories wrong because somebody explained something to you." That was one story. But I actually, when I finished that story, I was like, "I don't understand what the ending of the story is about," and so then Nemos explained it to me, and I was like, "Oh, that actually makes it better." But, like, a lot of them I just didn't like. So, you can't explain why division 0 divide by 0 is good because it's bad, so it doesn't matter to me. Have you read any Ted Chiang, Alex?
I haven't actually, and this is something like short stories in general. It's something I always say I need to read more of, and I still hold that opinion because I just don't read enough of them. I still haven't read the Ken Liu
What?
short stories. Yeah, dude,
Oh
haven't
my
read Paper
god. Do I have to
Menagerie.
sign up to your Patreon just so you'll listen to something I say? Like, this is absurd. Like,
Sure. No,
uh,
yeah, God, I need to read those, and I do want
dude,
to
you
read the
will
Ted
love
Chiang.
those.
So
I think you'll like Ted Chiang more than me. Like, I mean, I loved Exhalation. I think you'll like both of them more than I did.
yeah,
Davis says, "I was personally shocked to see Understand and Story of Your Life as low as they were. Liking What You See is my favorite, though, so all is forgiven, Kyle. Story of Your Life is the one I listened to on audio. I thought it was decent. I it suffers from what I think all of those short stories suffer from, most of them, is that it doesn't have, like, a narrative structure. Like, it just kind of does some stuff and then it ends, and, like, just because it's a short story doesn't mean that it should be doing that. And then Understand did not fall into that. It had a clear beginning, middle, end, but, it just got super annoying and silly to me, so that's why I ended up not liking that one. People just coming for me for my Ted Chiang opinions, Alex.
Siege of Capistan, so memorable.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
Siege of
yeah,
Kapistan is incredible.
it's so over the top, like I in a way that I enjoyed. Like it was just so much of everything going on at once. Loved it.
Davis, of course, being Ken Liu himself, says that you should read the Paper Menagerie collection. Um, Evie's doing, yeah, so she's doing short story
I would
September
love this
I can't say
in
this.
September and October. September.
September.
I'll
Read a
do
single
this.
short story collection or anthology anytime in September and October. I will probably do this. I have
I
a
feel like I
couple
buy
short story
one.
collections.
I feel like I buy them frequently, and I just have never read. I mean, I have read short story collections, but there's so many I haven't read that I have.
Yeah, I
I
might do
want.
the Megan Lindholm Robin Hobb short story collection.
Oh yeah, I would do want to read the
I
inheritance.
wanted to do that.
Those stories.
But I have several that I need to read. I have, like, a couple Ken Liu, like, translated, like, Chinese fiction short stories, and I've always
Yeah.
wanted to read, so I could do that too. Um, I am not annoying, but I am silly, so you got me one for one there. Um, if I finish and like Mistborn Era 1, should I restart Stormlight Archive or read Mistborn Era 2? Not immediately. Like, did you DNF Stormlight Archive, or do you mean, like, you finished Stormlight, but you think
Usually.
the added context would be better? Because if you haven't read Stormlight Archive, but you end up
This
liking
is my
Mistborn,
this is the boat I'm in. I haven't read Stormlight yet.
yeah,
Or
I
Mistborn
honestly,
Era
I
2.
definitely think you should read Stormlight Archive before Mistborn Era 2, not because I think, like, you need to understand things. I just think that would be a better experience. But what a lot of people do is they do one Stormlight and then one Mistborn Era 2 and then one Stormlight and then one Mistborn Era 2 because the tones are so different. It's like a break from each other.
That's true.
But, like, in terms of, like, Cosmere connections, like, you can do any of those in any order except Era 2 after Era 1 is the only.
Is
Is the only.
Warbreaker the one that you have to read before Way of Kings or Words of Radiance? Or do you have to read
Uh,
it? I
so
mean, I want to
I
read it,
mean,
but I just want
I get what you're saying. So I push back heavily against the word "have to" because the fandom does not understand what the word "have to" means, and so it just really drives me crazy. But
There's
the
one
one
scene.
Literally, so it is literally one scene. But that being said, it greatly enhances that scene. Like it's not like a kind
Yeah.
of so.
I'll do it.
And
I
then
mean, I will
yeah.
totally. Yeah.
So what I would say is, if you're gonna read them all, no matter what, read
Mhm.
Warbreaker before Words of Radiance. The only people I wouldn't
Okay.
recommend that to are people who like, for instance, Genghis Khan. He really likes the binge series. If I knew that about a person, I would say it might not be worth it to pause and then switch to another series and then go back. If you really like binging, it might not be worth it.
Yeah.
But
Better
otherwise,
off just
I
reading the
would
whole
I would
thing.
say always read Warbreaker if you're already going to read Warbreaker, because there's a scene in Words of Radiance that has no real meaning unless you've read Warbreaker. You'll just think, oh, this is a new thing they're introducing, but you'll know what's going on if you've read Warbreaker, and it'll be super dope. And then
Cool. Well, I want to
the
read.
next
Yeah.
the next couple books have a little bit more to do with Warbreaker. So the earlier you read it, the better. But you don't have to. Like you can understand Stormlight without it.
All right.
Davis said, sorry,
Ooh.
Tanner says, for Septober, which Stevie King short story collection would you guys recommend? Skeleton Crew.
Skeleton Crew is really good. Night Shift.
Night
Just
Shift, I
After
think.
Sunset. I love Just After Sunset too, and it's
Me
not really
too.
talked about that much.
It's hard for me to remember which ones are in which. I've just read Skeleton Crew, so I know firmly which ones are in that one.
Yeah.
I think
There's a
Night
couple I
Shift.
haven't read.
Me too.
Everything's
I think
Eventual. Is that a story collection? Yeah, I haven't read that
Everything's
one.
Eventual is really good.
Yeah.
Night Shift, I think, is his most consistent one, but I haven't read it in like 10 years. So I could
It's
change
like,
my mind on that. I
yeah.
think it's like consistently like the higher quality, whereas I think Skeleton Crew has a couple that are really like average, like boring, but it also has like 3 or 4 of his like absolute best. Like The Jaunt is one of the best. I would go as far as saying it's my favorite short story of all time. Like it is very good. You know
Dang.
which one that one is?
No, I haven't read Skeleton Crew.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Bro,
The
get it
only
together.
short story King ones I've read were Just After Sunset, Night Shift, and then I've read his novellas, which because I was
Gotcha.
like between the short story collection and the novella collection, I always ended up reading the novella one. So
Just After Sunset was really good. I liked that one. But I've liked all of his short story collections. Like
yeah, I just
it's
again it's
because
short stories I just need to read
yeah, I
more
think
of.
he's really good at them. It's just that like I forget the ones that are average. So like before I reread Skeleton Crew, I was like, this is like a banger from beginning to end. And then I reread it and I'm like, actually, there's like 7 in here that like are just kind of fine. But it's just there's some that I think about all the time. Like I could
Yeah.
never in my life get on a raft and not be terrified. And it's because of the short story of the raft. Like it
Yeah.
is petrifying. It is so scary. And I
Oh
think he's
dang.
actually scarier in short format
I
than
could. I think that's true. I also think in novella format he's pretty.
yeah.
There's some crazy
Have
shit.
you read it might have been in Just After Sunset, but I don't remember. Have you read N?
Yeah, that's in
The
Just After Sunset. Yeah.
yeah, that is terrifying. I think about that all the time.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
that,
is
I
where
remember when that book came out, and I remember there was like, was there like a video or something? I feel like there was something that came out for N when that Just After Sunset came out, and it was like a animated
this
thing,
yeah, this sounds familiar.
and it was like an episodic thing serializing the story
I
of
don't think
N.
I don't think I
I don't
watched it,
know
but
what
I
it was.
remember hearing about it or seeing
I
like
remember
a
watching
promotion
it
for it.
like right when I was reading those story when the story collection came out, and it was wild. I was like, this is awesome. But
I still think about just like the stones and just like
oh my god.
the ending of that story. Like I bet I read it 12 years ago, and I still
Yeah.
like vividly remember the end of that story. Like it was
Yep.
really good. Davis says, "You read my mind. Is this about Warbreaker, or I'm not sure what you're referring to?" Hey, Theo's here. This guy who decided to do his stream at the same time as us. I hope you had fun,
Yeah.
Matt.
Hey
But I'm
man.
glad to hear it. I tried reading Oathbringer well over a year after Words of Radiance, so I wasn't as invested. I read Words of Radiance,
Oh, you read Stormlight.
it's just, perfectly fine. So if you haven't read Rhythm of War and you've now read Mistborn Era 1, I would say read Stormlight again, because now you're going to have more information on reread to catch a bunch of stuff on reread. You're going to probably enjoy Rhythm of War and Oathbringer more, but I mean, who knows? But I think you would if you're more invested. And then also you're going to catch some stuff from Mistborn, which isn't like super important, but is now there for you to catch. So I would reread it personally. You have time before the 5th book comes out. Warbreaker was not just fine. Warbreaker is awesome, but it's okay that you're like this. Oh, Different Seasons. Different
Yeah,
Seasons
Different
is
Seasons is so
amazing.
good.
Tanner, you have to read Different Seasons.
Yeah.
They're
Well, that's
technically
novellas.
novellas, but
Yeah.
do it anyway. Nobody cares.
That's so good. Dude, Stephen
All
King's
4 of
novellas
those
are
are
so
good.
good. That Full Dark No Stars is so good.
Yes, really good.
I loved If It Bleeds.
I really
Thought
liked
that
Different
was
Bleeds
good.
too. They just did a Netflix adaptation
I
of one of
know.
those, and I haven't watched it, but
Yeah.
my wife did, and she said she really liked it, so I want to watch it
Yeah.
soon.
We watched it. I thought it was good. It was funny because I don't think that was my favorite story in that collection, but
It wasn't mine. My favorite was
yeah.
probably If It Bleeds.
Yeah.
But I liked it. Yeah, he's really good with like novellas and just like longer.
Tanner asked about Hearts in Atlantis. That could, I would consider that's kind of like, it's like a total mix of novella, short story, all linked together by one thing.
I think that is a book. Not like I think that is a
Yeah.
novel with a weird structure, and I don't know if Stephen King would agree with me. I don't think Evie would care. Like I think it's marketed as a short story collection, but it is literally just like one guy's life, and it's just like you skip forward for new stories.
Yeah.
So it feels like a book. Like,
have you seen the movie?
No, I haven't yet.
Anthony Hopkins. It's good.
Okay, Evie. If you read Different Seasons and you don't like it, I can say safely and for sure that Stephen King is not for you. I know you've been going back and forth, and you read a couple and you haven't liked them, but Different Seasons is the number one thing from Stephen King that is not the Green Mile that I would recommend for you. So I hope that works for you because I think you will like it. I love The Green Mile, man. That book is so good.
Green Mile's so good. It's a book that's also never really talked about, I feel like.
Oh, I like this. I mean, like I disagree with you, but the end results are so good that I'm willing to put aside.
Serialized parts, six small little paperbacks.
Yeah. I like that. I'm also getting Bookborn to read The Green Mile soon, so hopefully she likes it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
As you will. I feel like it's rare when someone reads that I know that doesn't at least like it. It's like hard to not.
Yeah, if you have emotions.
I know, like if you have a soul.
Person, yeah, you know what I mean? Like I don't know.
Human.
Yeah, that book is just, I think like in terms of writing, it's probably his best book. Like maybe like it is the most emotional and stuff.
Yeah.
I also love Revival. Have you read Revival?
I loved Revival's one of my favorite King books.
Yeah,
I love that book.
I think so. I would have guessed you liked it because you and I both probably like it for the same reason. Beyond just like the ending is crazy good and like Stephen King is an author we like, but it's like a rock autobiography.
It is.
It's like,
yeah, I do. Yeah.
For 80% of that book, it's like if Slash was just like if you were just reading Slash, like you know, and then at the end is just like also all this stuff, and you're like, whoa.
Yeah, I love that. Is that the one where like the author photo? Does he have a guitar? Sometimes there's like that might be the one where like Stephen King's holding a guitar. He does that in a bunch of those. Like it has been playing guitar on it.
I think that was the one. It's been a while since I read it. The funny story about Revival is I read it and the ending scared me so much. Like I think it's singularly the most scared I've ever been reading a book. And,
it's terrifying. It's one of his best endings, and it's also one of the most terrifying.
Sure. I still think about it, and I like my wife had already went to bed, and I was just like I had to like sleep with the lights on, and she's like, "You're like really scared." I'm like, I am. And then I like donated that book the next day because I was like, that was just so I don't want it at all. And then I thought about it, and I was like, that was a good book though. Like I just reacted in pure terror, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Jake, if you don't like, I mean, you will like The Green Mile. Like
you will.
I'm not worried at all. Like
I would be shocked if you didn't like it.
I would just think somebody had taken over your mind and you weren't Jake if you didn't like Green Mile. Evie says, I've seen the film adaptation, so 2 characters in The Green Mile remind me of Lenny. So I feel like King was paying homage. Definitely. Absolutely. John Coffey is an incredible character.
Oh my God, yeah.
And
that actor too.
Paul Hess comes. Yeah, I mean, Michael Clark Duncan was so good, like in everything he did.
Like in some ways, I love Shawshank Redemption, and like I
Oh,
love the short story,
Jake's
and
gonna melt.
and I and I love the movie. But in some ways, I like Green Mile as a movie better. Even though, like, if out of the two King prison movies, I think personally, on a personal bias, I would pick Green Mile as my favorite.
So here's what I would say. I would say I like Green Mile better, but I can recognize Shawshank is a better movie.
Yeah,
But I also saw Green Mile as like a kid. Like
yeah,
I probably watched Green Mile like 15 times before I saw Shawshank Redemption. So like it's hard for me to like Shawshank
damn,
Redemption as much. Like I saw that movie a lot as a kid. So
yeah.
I was all into Mr. Jingles, man. He was my homie.
Tanner says he grabbed 97 different seasons of work. Hell yes. Was going to snag the Loft Tomb series, but the mixed opinions drove him away. Tanner, honestly, I think you could be someone who ends up like really liking that series, but I don't know.
I think you would like it. So here's what I think, Tanner. I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think you respond very negatively to like edgy edgelord stuff. That just like, so I think the first couple chapters of that book, without any advice from anybody else, you would just be like, nope, not interested. That's what I think. But I think you would actually really like the series if you like went on. I think it's just such a wild, crazy, imaginative series that I could see you really, really digging it. So my advice is for you to give Gideon the Ninth 30 to 40% and see what you think at that point. And if you don't like it by then maybe I'm wrong. But I think you would like it.
Yeah, it's tough too because you gotta get because I think Harrow is such a step up, but I think it's tough because you have to read Gideon first. And like obviously I think Gideon's a good book, but I personally on my first read of it thought it was like super all right. I was like, yeah, this book confuses the shit out of me. Like for the first chunk of that book, I was like, I don't understand what's going on. I don't know if I don't like this. Like I think I like it, but I also don't know if I like it. And it wasn't really until I read Harrow the Ninth where I was like, wow, that was really cool. That was all coming together.
I knew that I liked Gideon by the time I finished it. Like I think the final act of Gideon is really
the final
strong.
act is really good. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I didn't like. I gave it 4 stars. I've given every book in the series 4 stars. I think I gave Nona the Nine 3 actually, but I don't think that it deserves 3. But yeah, Harrow the Ninth is an experience for sure. Like
it's wild. It's like
that book is so
bizarre
and just like impressive. Like I was just mad impressed the whole time. I was like, I was angry and then I was mad. And like, so this isn't like a spoiler of any, this is just a demonstration of how confused Alex and I were. So Jordan had already read it. And so in our group chat, Alex and I were like responding with theories. And at one point, Alex just like randomly messaged us and it was like, guys, does Harrow even exist? Like,
I was like straight up
into
like
the mine hole we were like, what if this whole book is not real? Like, it is really,
that's
really
what
good.
I was like, this is gonna get super meta and weird, and all of these characters don't exist. It's just some giant something. I don't even know what I'm reading, but it was getting to that way multiple times. I would be very curious to see what Jake would think of book 2.
I just think he would DNF it, honestly. Like I don't think
Yeah.
If you don't have any root investment in what's going on, it's so confusing. You just be like, nope, absolutely not.
It's a very confusing book, and I'm trying to get RJ to read because RJ gave Gideon 3 stars, so I'm like, oh, dude, try Harrow sooner rather than later because you'll remember stuff. And if you don't like Harrow, then you're probably safe to just put down the series, I would say. But
yeah,
the problem with Harrow is that the problem with Harrow is that it won't make sense until 92% of the way through the book.
No, it's a little bit. So you don't fully get everything till the end, but like I think the book starts to orientate itself at like the 70% mark, but that's a long time to have literally no idea what's happening. Yeah.
Yep. You just have to trust that like you're reading stuff for a reason.
People talk about Lock Tomb like it's Book of the New Sun. Like I haven't read Book of the New Sun, but like I cannot stress how confusing Harrow the Ninth is. Like it is the most confusing book I've ever read. I'm not saying that to just be like hyperbolic. I literally mean like I think it killed my reading ability for like a month afterwards. Like I just was like, I cannot focus on anything like it's not like it's complex. Like The prose isn't difficult.
Mm-mm.
Even like each individual scene is not like it's usually just like a conversation of a person talking about a person about a thing they need to do, but you have no grounding on where, when, why, who, or what is going on. Like it's just very perplexing until you get.
I was saying, I think I read that right around when I was reading Gardens of the Moon, and I was like, this is significantly more confusing than Gardens of the Moon. It's not even a question. Like I was like,
Yeah,
no
me too.
question. Hair of the Ninth
Gardens
is
of the Moon is way
significantly more.
easier.
I was like, Gardens of the Moon was like, oh wow, I totally understand what's going on. Hair of the Ninth, I was just like, what the hell am I reading?
So, Jack, I would say add Gideon to your TBR if you like weird stuff, like things that take chances. Um, the main people I would not recommend Gideon to are people who like any sign of like millennial Zoomer humor throws them off,
Yeah, that's in there.
because that's in there. And then also anybody who likes straightforward narratives, and I like some like it's perfectly fine to like your book to go from A to Z and read it, but like the Locked Tomb is not playing around. It's trying to it's very Tamsin Muir doing whatever the hell she wants. And that can be very frustrating for a reader. So if you're okay with just like being along for the ride and seeing where things go, I think you should absolutely try it. It is one of the most unique things I've ever read, but it's not for everybody for sure. So I have a question for you. I'm gonna put you on the spot here. You keep
Uh,
saying it's fine. You keep saying like when we're talking about books, you're like, "Oh, Jordan might like this, but Kyle, I think you will definitely like this." Or like even earlier, you were like, "Kyle, I think you would definitely like this."
what book
What
was
do
that?
you? I don't remember now.
That was
But it was like,
today.
yeah, it was
Wasn't that
today.
today?
But
God,
my
memory.
question is, what do you think my reading taste is? Because you're always so firm. You're like Kyle will definitely like this. I'm like, but what is the essence that makes you feel that way? Like, you know?
Um, 1 second. I'm trying to find where I literally cannot find. I don't even know what we were
We
talking about.
talk too much. Yeah, it's we were having all sorts
Okay,
of rants
whatever.
the other day. So
Um, I, I think. Well, when it's a group chat between me, you, and Jordan, I think Jordan is more flexible in terms of what she'll like. I feel like. I also feel like the darker it is, to be honest, like the darker it is and the more shocking it is for like not overly gratuitous or anything, but like in just a book, a book more that a book gives a reaction out of you. Jordan will like it, and I think because I've just my opinions of what you would like kind of stem from what you don't like. So like Assassin's
yeah,
Quest, like I'm
that's what
like
I thought.
okay,
Um, yeah, because I think the reason I brought it up is because I think a lot of people just recommend like things that they like to people,
mm-hmm.
and it's way more valuable when you like create information about like what they've liked in the past, which like obviously it's going to result in better recommendations, but I think you are very good at recommending things, like even on your channel. When you're talking about who will like things and why, I think you're very eloquent about getting that across for what types of people. But also just like in our personal relationship, like you are one of the only people that will be like, oh, I think you will like this, versus just like, oh, this book is really good, which to me is a very big difference. Like anybody can tell me that a book is really good, but if somebody's like, oh, Kyle, I think you will like this book, like I
Mm-hmm.
that makes me more likely to go seek out a book. Yeah, Jake is one of the people that if he tells me to read a book, I will probably read it.
Yeah.
It's rare that we disagree.
Like there's some things I feel like would are big cues for things that I think you would like. So if it's like rooted in real life history in some way, I think
Yeah.
if it's if it's takes its time, but it's not
Assassin's
slow to
Quest.
where it's like where you feel like it's
Actually,
meandering the whole time.
yeah, the middle of
Um
Assassin's Quest, I just kind of meme on because it's fun. It's the ending of Assassin's Quest that I don't really
yeah,
like.
yeah.
Um,
I
I think you like weird stuff. Like I like
I
if
do like weird
something's
stuff.
weird, I'm like, oh, Alex is gonna vibe with it. I was pretty sure you would like Lock Tomb. I was like, this is the shit right here.
Yeah. Yeah, I do like weird stuff. I don't know. I just
And
there are
Southern Gothic.
Yeah, I do like Southern Gothic. There's some stuff that is tough for me to tell if we'd like and not like, because to be honest, I hate to bring it up again, but like something like The Faithful and the Fallen, it's something I feel like going into the series. One, I would have thought I would have loved it, but I also would have
Yeah,
thought you would have loved it
me too.
too,
I was
because I
super
felt like I was like, oh, it's kind of has this seems like it has Kyle written all over it in a
and
sense.
also like we both already read John Gwynn and liked him.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, I love the Bloodsworn books. I was just like, okay,
um
yeah, it's gonna be a blast.
yeah, I wonder if like cuz there's always a part of me that's like I wonder if I had just read Faithful and the Fallen like earlier if I would have liked it, but the things that bother me about it, I'm pretty sure would have always bothered me. They just maybe wouldn't have bothered me as much. Or
Yeah,
maybe the like big moments in it would have hit me way harder, so like I would have been able to forgive that stuff.
I think that's what happened to me.
Yeah,
I feel like
the repetition really drove me nuts. Like that's
yeah,
my biggest problem.
I feel like the big surprise moments would have still gotten me. Probably would have
Yeah,
gotten me more if I hadn't read more fantasy and stuff beforehand. Um, I don't
yeah,
know, but there are a couple things that happened that I just don't like in any series. So
yeah.
yeah, I can see
Um,
that. I mean, I totally, I don't know, it's tough. And I'm trying to think because like you also like stuff like Dresden where it's short and choppy. You can like binge the series pretty close together. Um, it's kind of a palate cleanser, but at the same time, there's a lot more to it than just like surface level, and it kind of
did you
builds.
read Ghost Story? I forget if you did, or
No,
did you
dude,
start with Changes?
I haven't read anything since Changes.
Oh, dude,
It's crazy, I know.
dude, that you're just stuck on that cliffhanger.
I think because in such a short time I read 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and then I was like,
Yeah,
okay, I need a break. But didn't plan on taking a break or anything. I just haven't picked up Ghost
yeah.
Story, but I should. I need
Yeah,
to.
Ghost Story is a good point to pause at, but it's just like it's so hard at the end of Changes to not be like,
I know. Yeah, at the end of Changes, I was like, wow. Imagine if the series ended right here. Just like, that's all, folks.
I really want Jordan to get to Changes. Like
I
I
know.
I'm really curious.
I
So
think she'll
for
love
anybody,
Small Favor.
yeah, I do too. For anybody who's
She's gonna
watching
hate
that's
Book
not
9.
aware of the context, Jordan, our friend Jordan Reeds, DNA Dresden after the first book, and then I convinced her to continue by just reading 5 and then 7, and then going on from 7. And I was like, just notice the like increased quality as you go. And so she like read 5, and then she's like, yeah, it's okay. And then she read 7. She's like, that was actually a good book. And then she read 8, Proven Guilty, and she was like, that was good, but I still don't like Harry. Is there going to be a time in which I like Harry? And so that's going to be the key factor, I think.
Like, I don't think you need to love Harry especially book 8.
Yeah, like
I don't think she'll like book 9, to be honest. And I think
that's because nothing happens in that book. Like, I mean, not
I
nothing,
know.
but like, there's like one big event.
I really do think that she'll like Small Favor a lot. I thought Small Favor was epic, and I like
Yeah,
wasn't expecting it.
I like Small Favor more
Um,
in hindsight. Like, I think at the time I like Turncloak more. Or wait, no,
oh yeah,
Turncloak
I
is
like
10.
Turncoat.
Which one's 10?
Turncoat's 11.
Okay, so I thought I liked Turncloak more, and I do really like Turncloak, but I think I like Small Favor more in hindsight.
Yeah, Small Favor just brings back a villain that I right? Is that Small Favor? I'm pretty sure it is.
Jordan won't warm to Harry because I think it's her internal
Because
voice.
Harry is
I've
Harry.
told her this. I don't know if Jordan's still here, but because she reads all of his like snarky comments like just in a certain voice in her head, and I'm like, listen, we've all had a friend that says some stuff that we don't think is funny, and then we're just like, ha ha, Harry, and then but you still like him. You're just like, I wish you'd just shut up sometimes, and that's how I feel about Harry Dresden. Like I feel like he's like a good dude, but just could you just shut up once in a while? Like, could you just stop?
Hey man, it's better if you didn't say anything.
Yeah, for sure. Like, yeah, that's how I feel. Oh man, I want to reread Dresden already.
You should.
I
You
think
should.
so.
I was gonna
Honestly,
say you
like,
should read it and catch up to me, but that would be a while. So don't do
they're
that.
short. I could do that, but I'm not going to. 2022 was like an unmatched year for me. Like, I don't think, like, when I think about this year, like, I've read some good books, a couple great books, but like last year, I finished Dandelion Dynasty. I read Sun Eater. I read Greenbone. I read Warlord Chronicles. I read all of First Law. I read Dresden. I read Wheel of Time. Like I read so many series that were just epic and crazy. And then this year I'm like, I mean, Malazan's good. You know, like Red
Yeah,
Rising
I know what you
has
mean.
been a hit for me. Like, but it's
Okay.
not like a top. Although I really am liking the sequel trilogy quite a bit. But yeah, I think 2022 is just going to go down as like the year I found a lot of favorites.
That's
I read
awesome.
Swan Song and Boy's Life last year too.
Oh
Like
my god,
Jesus,
dude, Swan Song's so good. Jordan's comments on Swan Song were so funny.
I know. Yeah,
She's like,
Swan Song is really good. Jake,
she
if
said
you're
something about it
listening,
not living in an apocalypse, and you were like, Jordan, haven't you read The Stand? She was like, oh yeah, that did it too. And I was like,
yeah. Jake, if you're still listening, read Swan Song so that we can be friends again.
yes,
I think you'll like it. Yeah, I remember you saying this, Rogue, that you were kind of having some fantasy burnout. Like, you know, sometimes you just gotta change it up a bit. What have you been reading?
I get that.
Yeah, you just curve off like into a random branch where you're just like, I'm gonna just read 4 McCammon novels at once or something, you
I
know?
do. Yeah, I read The Secret History this month. I was like totally off.
Did you really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Totally.
How'd you like it?
I I loved it, and I didn't know what to expect. I mean, I've read The Goldfinch, but it was a few years ago, and I do want to reread that. But I was like, oh, I was just not. I was like, I don't want to read fantasy. I don't want to read sci-fi or horror. The book was just kind of staring at me on the shelf, and I was like, well, I feel like I should have read this book by now. So I tried it, and I really loved it.
I was supposed to do a read along with that on Sarah's Discord, and I was like one of the people that set it up with Sarah. I was like, yeah, let's do it. Let's go. And we decided like 3 or 4 months in advance we were going to do it, and then like the month started and I went to go and I'm like, oh, I just don't own this book. Like I own the Goldfinch, but I thought I owned the Secret History, and I was like, I can't go out and buy this book right now. Like, sorry guys, you'll have to do without me. So I do want to read it. And
Oh yeah, it's
Jake,
really good.
we are friends in every moment except the few moments of time that I remember you didn't like The Stand. Then we're not friends for a minute.
I'm excited because I'm finally at Age of Madness. I finished Red Country.
Oh yeah, what did you think of Red Country? Did you give it 5
I
stars?
I did, but
All that dirt.
I loved it. I like the heroes more, which is weird
Okay,
and
good.
shocking
Okay,
to me.
I'm glad.
But
I'm glad.
I did like the heroes more. I loved Red Country. I thought I enjoyed it for all the reasons I went in expecting to enjoy it. Um, I just felt like on an emotional level, the heroes got more out of me than Red Country did. I was just like more emotionally invested in everything, and I just felt
Yeah.
like the characters were a little bit more. I just felt like the risks, or the stakes were higher, and I felt like there was more ready to go crazy than I
Red
did in
Country
Red
is more
Country.
personal. It's dealing with the
Yeah.
fates of a couple people, and the heroes is also dealing with the fate of a couple people because it's like a battle, but it's also
Yep.
dealing with like the political landscape of the First Law universe. So it inherently has more stakes. But Red Country, like, look, there's a theme with me, and I'm okay with this theme, which is that endings can make or break for me really hard. And like I gave Red Country 3.5 stars. It's not like I did not like it, but I really don't like the end of Red Country. Like I really
Okay.
don't like it.
Yeah.
And then I also have a pet peeve, and I'm not going to tell you what the pet peeve is here, but I'll explain it a little so that people who've read the book know what it is. There's a thing that he's nodding to the whole book about if you've read previous books, you know exactly what he's talking about. But everybody within the book is asking this question. They're like, what is this? Who is this person? What is this thing? And we, the reader who have read all of the previous books, know who it is. But then the characters who are trying to find out who this person is never find out who they are. But then the book treats it as if you need to know who this person is for the
Yeah.
weight of the context of the end to make sense. And I really did not like that decision because it's marketed as a standalone. So some people are reading this book without having read previous books. And like the heroes, I think you could do that with. Even though they're setting up a whole bunch of other stuff, you could read the heroes and understand
Mhm.
that book perfectly. You might miss like some, minor context, but you'd be fine. But Red Country, I think the climax of that book is missing information that you only understand if you have the weight of the previous books, and that drives
Yeah.
me crazy. Like on principle, I don't like that he made that decision. It would have been really easy to make the wink into reality near the end of the book. Just say the
Yeah.
thing, and then I would have honestly given that book another star.
Yeah. It felt way more connected to the previous trilogy than the other books did. Like I was like, I think all three of the standalones kind of did the same thing where I was like, I see why they're standalones, like they're all individual stories, but I can't imagine reading them and then not have read the first Saw trilogy first. Like it would have just been weird. But I can totally see how someone would do it. I mean, I've seen some crazy stuff. This is not to go totally off topic and stuff, but I feel like without any context, if you go to a bookstore and pick up a fantasy series that's not listed as like, oh, book 7, you could just end up reading something that's like book 12 in a series you wouldn't know. Like I've seen people post like, hey, just picked up this new Robin Hobb book, haven't read any of her, and I'm excited to dive into it. And it's like Dragon Keeper. And I'm like, okay, well, there are worse places to pick, but why?
Yeah.
And
So that
it's
happened,
so confusing because you pick up the book and it just doesn't tell you anything other than
and it
like
says first
book
book in the
1.
Rain Wilds.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, that happened to, I mean, I don't know if you know who she is, but Bridget, she's on a bunch of Discords. A
Mhm.
couple years ago, when Dragon Keeper came out, she got an arc of it, and she did not know that there were other books. So she gave it like 3 stars or whatever, or 2 stars maybe, and she was like, "Yeah, the world building wasn't really explained. Like I was just kind of thrown in," and she didn't know it was part of another connected universe. And now she's like reread, and she's gotten past that point. She's like, "Oh, I liked it way better on reread." So,
Yeah. Yeah.
Rogue says, "I'm easing back into sci-fi fantasy, but I've learned my lesson. No more multiple fantasy series at once anymore. At most, maybe
I
2,
get
but
that.
that's pushing it for me right now." Yeah, it's important to learn what works for you in your reading. Like, I realized last December, I was reading a lot of endings of series, and I set that up myself. Like, I was like, "Oh, December's gonna be crazy. I'm gonna read as many endings as possible of the series," and that was like an epic, epic month. But towards the end of the month, I was like, "Oh, I'm not reading anything new." Like, and I really wanted, like, I was super itching for just like the start of a series or like a standalone. But I had already committed myself to reading like 17
14 endings.
endings to series or whatever it was. And so I was like, "Oh, like another ending." Like, and it was exhausting for me. So now I know not to do that again, but you just got to kind of learn.
Yeah, definitely.
Um,
I'm so excited.
Trouble with Peace is incredible.
I've heard awesome things about that book specifically.
Is kind of a nothing.
Yeah, I
I
got
like
that too.
I
Yeah.
like
I mean, I
Shy,
liked
but
it.
yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, the circle scene was incredible. That's one of my favorite scenes in like the whole series. Like, I really Abercrombie is very good at duels.
Oh yeah, he's so good. Yeah,
Very good.
every duel in the series has been just top notch.
Jack says, "Officially wrote down my TBR. Going to take me 3 years to complete. I'm really
Oh,
happy that
don't
you were
worry,
able to
it'll
get
only just grow longer.
you got your TBR down to such a little amount. Like 3 years
Yeah.
would be nice for me to finish mine." The Bards still sing. Oh, Kyle's December 2022. Yeah, that was a wild month. Sometimes I just forget that I read a book that month. I'm like, "Oh yeah, I also read like Death's End that month." Like, Jesus.
Oh,
Like,
Death's End.
that trilogy
So
is really
good.
good. I want to reread that trilogy too. See, that's another series
I
that I
do want to
really
reread that too. That's a trilogy I want to reread just because I haven't read anything like it. And
yeah.
everyone even like the most well-versed in sci-fi readers are like, I still have yet to find anything like that series. I'm like, damn, well, that's not encouraging. So ends up just make me want to reread it. The Bards, him saying the Bards still singing of Kyle's December made me think for some weird reason of the character in The Witcher, and it made me think of The Witcher, and I know how much you love The Witcher, so
I
I don't
don't
know.
hate The Witcher. I hate ones. Have you read
Oh
any of The Witcher?
no, but
Oh,
I do own the first 2 short story collections and Blood of Elves, but I
okay.
haven't read any of
Um,
them.
yeah, I think it's just becoming like the thing each stream that I shit on The Witcher. You know why? Here's why. It's the only series I don't understand why people like it. Like, I'll just like
Yeah.
on main, I don't understand. I think the dialogue is good in that series, sometimes, and I think like Geralt is a really interesting character. And then what he does is he's like, "What if I focused on the not interesting character in favor of other things?" And I do really like the short story collections, but man, Blood of Elves, I don't get that book at all. That's a weird book. And then Time of Contempt is like, we shouldn't jail authors for writing books, but if we were gonna jail authors for writing books, I'm just saying that one should be in review. That's all I'm saying. Like, and that's some weird stuff at the end there. I do not appreciate. But yeah, I don't know. I just don't think it's for me. I heard a bunch of people say that Baptism of Fire is where the series really gets good. So I was like, well, I won't DNF the series until I read Baptism of Fire. And I would literally pick it up and put it on my nightstand and then like just recoil from the end
Yeah.
of Time of Contempt. And I was like, no, I'll put it back. I'll wait a little bit.
Yeah. Not gonna happen.
And eventually I just got rid of them all.
Dang. It's always a bummer.
Who is your least favorite point of view character? Is it Broad? I feel like it has to be Broad, but if it's not Broad, you're wrong. But
oh yeah, that's really...
what yours must be loading more than mine. Because I didn't see him answer the question yet. Yeah, Sword of Destiny sucks a lot, and I remember when Ryan was reading this, and
I remember reading this too. Yeah,
I was like, dude, like just stop the series, like.
Dude, when are you gonna read Baker? Aren't you reading Darkness Comes Before? Like, is that one of your books?
Yeah. I might read it in August actually.
Nice.
I'm running. I kind of made a mistake with the 12
talk
books,
about a series I genuinely don't know if you'll like. That's one.
Yeah.
I think you could. Know. There's a lot of things in it that I think you could really like, but there's also a lot of stuff in it that you might just be like, I don't know.
The people that really like it and the way they talk about it makes me think that I will like it. But yeah, it could go either way. But
I think there's a lot of potential. There's a lot of like obviously it's rooted, like there's nods to like real world stuff, but like the world building is something I think you're really gonna like the history and the everything, that side of the thing. I actually don't know if you will I don't know. I just don't know how you handle books that have a bunch of characters that you just shouldn't like, but end up liking, but shouldn't.
I mean, first of all, First Law, although I know it's probably not as bad.
I know,
First
but
Law
like,
is, but also, I did like read and really like the Prince of Thorns trilogy, The Broken Empire. So
okay, you know what, I'm gonna be confident. I hope you like it because I think that trilogy is so good, and I will be reading Aspect Emperor soon. So
yeah, I mean, I own all the books, so hopefully I like it.
Yes.
Nothing makes me sadder than donating 20 books in a series, like I'm probably going to do with this Simon Scarrow series, you know?
Oh yeah. Also, the way you liked when you read Remembrance of Earth's Past and you liked Death's End, like what you liked about Death's End and stuff, I was like, okay, I think you'll like Darkness. That's the Prince of Nothing trilogy, especially the third book gets like in that super weird, heady type stuff that.
Yeah. Good. See, I really like the philosophical stuff. And I also think I don't need to agree with an author that I'm reading. And some people do. Like, or they'll be so against what their philosophy is that they will be like, no, I don't need to agree with Baker. And I don't know what his political or philosophical leanings are at all. But I don't need to agree with what I'm reading to enjoy the thought process of having to read it. So hopefully. Also, Rogue, like, yeah, Gunnar Broad is also, well, we got POVs from that stupid sergeant in Heroes, right? What's his name? Stucky, Pippi, Longstockings. What is his name? Stinky, Stuffy. Why is this blanking on me?
I don't know.
You know who I'm talking about, though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did we get POVs from him? I guess
we did, because I remember being like, this guy's POV is worthless. He's my least favorite POV, and then it would be Gunnar Broad, but everybody else is good. Did you finish Book That Wouldn't Burn?
I did. Right? Yeah, and I enjoyed it. I'm excited to see where that trilogy
that's
goes.
What it is. Stupid
Honey.
Yeah, Ryan was like, I don't see the hype for this book. He was like 68%
Took me a bit.
in. And then I was like, dude, it's 72%. That's when the book went wild for me. He's like, I don't know. I don't know.
Same.
And then he sent me at like 72 or whatever, 75%. He was like, wow, you're right. I'm like, yeah, I told you. So that book is definitely back heavy, but I thought the writing was gorgeous.
But I'm glad. I mean, I feel like a lot of authors would have saved some of the stuff that is in the back 25% of that book for like the sequel. And I'm glad he didn't do that because it made that book better.
Jack, we were getting along, and then you went and reminded me of who you were. So now I think I'm going to ban you. I'm just kidding. I'm sorry that you did not like Warlord Chronicles.
I know a few people that
you are
free.
Yeah, but Jack read the whole thing.
But
he didn't like it because of the end. Okay. But it's okay. Like if we all agreed, then things would be boring. So I totally accept you and your bad opinions.
We're all friends here.
Yeah. Hey Colin, how's it going? Jack,
Hey.
I'm just kidding.
2 out of 5.
2 out of 5. It's 2 out of 10. Listen, Jack, I'm sure you're a nice person. I'm sure you're great. I'm sure you're a valuable reader, but I don't agree with you at all on this. So, Enemy of God is an all-time.
That's right.
Wait,
I've heard the second book. Yeah, Enemy of
yeah,
God
I
is like,
forgot you haven't read this series. I just
no,
assumed
I'm
you
reading it. Actually reading it this month. Well, I'm reading Winter King with RJ and Pat and Carlos, and we're reading one a month, which is good because they're not super long, and I want to
Dude,
spend.
I'm
I don't
stoked.
need to binge this series.
I'm
this month,
pretty
but
sure you will love this series. Like I'm almost
I hope
positive.
so. Yeah,
I will say
I do love the Arthurian legend to begin with, so
the
that
first
definitely
like
helps.
150 pages of Warlord Chronicles is like, and Kevin, son of Quoth with, was the steward of Jajaju,
Names.
and it's just like I'm like, what? But then it gets really good. Like
Okay.
it's really good.
I'm excited. Yeah,
That's the only reason Winter King didn't get a full 5 stars for me, is I feel like the first 100 pages is just like a list of names.
Mordred and Joffrey Bray, I think. Oh dang, we get a Child King. I guess
No,
we did.
but you get a Mordred. Tanner out here trying to spoil.
I actually haven't decided. So I'm probably going to do the audio.
Do the audio.
One of my least favorite things, and I think this can be solved with probably like whatever it's called, whisper sync, is when you have a book that the chapters are very, very long and you're doing audio.
Oh yeah.
And then I like, because sometimes I want to like go between audio and physical. And I hate when the chapters are like, 4 hours on audio. Cause I'm like, I don't know where in this chapter I stopped. And I have to like guess or spend time trying to find myself in the book. And Winter King's like that. So
yeah,
I'm probably going to do audio. I've heard amazing things about the audio, so I'm definitely going to start off on
like
that.
Yeah, I didn't even touch my copy of Excalibur. Like I just listened to the audio. I think I only read like 2 chapters of Enemy of God physical, and one of those chapters was because it was so good that I wanted to go back and experience it physical, and I did like 50-50 on Warlord. So
there's a sword and a stone. What?
Wow, Tanner, that is some crazy information.
I can't believe Arthur pulls that out.
Oh well, Hobb is really good at characters you want to punch in the face.
Yeah, I need to read that series. I was like all pumped. I was going to read Soldier Son when everyone else was reading it, and I was like, you know what? No, I'm going to wait a little bit, just because I was like, once I finished Realm of the Outerlings, I was like, right away I would have started it. If I had started it for like that first book, Shaman's Crossing, I think it's the first one, right after I finished Fits in the Fool, I would have been like all for it. But I feel like after some time away from Fits in the Fool, I was like, I just want to break from Hobb.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm sure I'll give it a try at some point, but I got Elderlings to finish first.
You do?
Yeah.
Still haven't picked up Assassin's Apprentice. Ryan,
I honestly,
I don't know if you like it. You might not like it.
How is A Feast for Crows going for you? You've been reading for 6 months, number one. But number two, I don't think Farseer is going to be your jam. I would love to be wrong, but I do not think you're going to like it. But if you don't like it, try Live Ships. Like start with Assassin's Apprentice. But if you just think that isn't your vibe, at least you give Live Ships a chance.
This is what I've heard this from a couple of people who have said Forest Mage is like one of her best books.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Which is exciting.
Ryan says Feast is great. That's good. I'm really glad you're liking it. That's not the right comment. Things moved. Feast is great. Yeah. It is great.
No, right. I agree with Tanner. Ryan would strongly dislike Assassin's Quest.
Literally, I think it would be a 1 star from him. Like
no way I would like it.
Or DNF maybe. Like I don't think this is the book for him. But I don't know if you know him, but Nick, like in Discords, he basically doesn't like first person slow POV fantasy at all, and he loves the Fitz books. So like sometimes the thing just,
and then he hates the non-Fitz books. Like
so sometimes things just hit you the right way.
Yeah, so. They do. It's a perfect combination of prose and timing and
Why did
whatever
the Key
else.
Mark readathon almost push you into a slump, Ryan? Is it just because like you felt like you had to read certain books?
I will start feeling like I get pushed into a slump if I feel like I've been reading a bunch of stuff that I have to read, which I've kind of why I've started slowing down on
Ryan,
TBRs.
you are not gonna like Assassin's Quest.
Oh my god, dude. Of Darkness and Light. Isn't that the one in that series that like everyone talks about is that the first book? No, that's
That's the
what Blood
second
and
book.
Fire. Isn't that the
It's the
one that
second.
everyone talks about is like, oh, it's awesome?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't read them yet. I'm gonna read them at some point, but I hear the first one's good, and then they get really good. But I have no problems with traveling as long as the character dynamics and stuff within them are good. Like Feast for Crows is like mostly traveling, but I love it. So
I'm excited. I do want to try that series. I'm nervous just based on my feelings towards my feelings towards Faithful and Fallen, but I don't know. I genuinely don't know if I'll like it. Hope I do
yeah,
because it'd be cool. I always loving finding a new series of love.
yeah, I would love to like it, especially with how like big they are.
They
Like,
do. I agree with
yeah.
Jake. A short quest is not a quest. It's just a task.
Well, I look forward to disagreeing with you, Ryan, or maybe I will agree with you. I don't know, but I don't think that I will. Yeah, so Tanner asks,
Well,
Alex, am I crazy for having A Dance with Dragons as my second favorite of Song of Ice and Fire? I asked you because I already know how Kyle feels regarding my sanity. To be clear,
is your favorite Storm of Swords?
I think his favorite Storm Swords.
Okay,
To be
and then Dance
clear,
of Dragons. I think that makes sense.
this is the wrong opinion, but any
I see it.
having any ranking as long as Storm of Swords is your first is fine. That's totally fine. Dance with Dragons is my least favorite, but that's still one of my favorite books of all time. So like I'm glad that you liked it as much as you did. I just think it's irregular, like is my actual opinion, is that like most people don't have it as their second. But
Yeah, that's true.
that's bold of you, which is good. Like live your life, Tanner. Life isn't as fun if I don't make fun of you, but I'm just happy that you loved it. So
Storm is first.
Feast isn't not pointless travel. So first of all, I love Feast with my whole entire heart. But one major plot line is quite literally pointless traveling, and I love those chapters. But like the
Yep.
point of the quest is not possible, and we as the reader know that. So, but I love those chapters. Colin says in the book's defense, though, it is literally called Assassin's Quest, so like it isn't fair to get mad when it's a quest.
I
That's
agree,
true,
Colin.
but sometimes people do things that are wild, like they read a romance book and then say, "Wow, there's romance in it." So, you know,
I'm like pretty much exactly Jake's ranking of them, which is weird because
first. I'm not that wild.
I loved A Feast for Crows. I love Feast for Crows, but I don't. I'm excited to see what I think of Dance with Dragons on reread, which I haven't read yet.
I think so. Jake's this is really interesting to me because Jake and I have really similar opinions, and Jake has read the series one time, and I have not read it one time. Jake's ranking was my exact ranking the first time I read it, and maybe even the second and third time I read it.
Yeah.
The only thing that's changed for me in this is just that A Feast for Crows
Feast.
shoots up to second for me. And then otherwise it's exactly the same. So we will see on Jake's reread what he feels, because this is very similar to how I felt on first, or this is exactly how I felt on first read.
Tanner's Game of Thrones last. That makes sense. I could totally see that. I mean, it sucks because I love all 5 books, and I think the first one I've easily read the most out of any of them. But I can also see why that would be your least favorite.
Yeah. Jake says, I disagree with that premise. If a book is boring to someone, having a title that warns it's boring doesn't make it not boring. That is true. Jake with the base to take here. Tanner's least favorite is Got, which is interesting. I don't have like I totally get it. I think on my first read, no, maybe my second read, Game of Thrones shot down to my least favorite because it was too close to when I had read or when I had seen the first season the second time.
It is the closest to the show.
And it's so close. So
yeah.
I can see that. But I don't know if Tanner's watched the show. I feel like he has. Also, I did not know Jake had read it twice. I thought he'd read it once. So that's interesting. The third time, hopefully you like Feast better. Yeah, absolutely. Like it's splitting hairs. Like I think they're all fantastic. Like The
He
only
might
like
be
actual
spoiler.
problem I have with A Dance with Dragons is that he cut both of the climaxes of that book, which I think
Would
it's
save
not
them.
like not even like a me like I think A Dance with Dragons would be better if one of these were in it. I actually think it was like an actively wrong decision. Like to rob the book of both climaxes was not a good idea. And especially because like obviously hindsight, but like it's been 12 years since the last book, which obviously he wouldn't have anticipated. But like if we had just waited an extra 4 or 5 months or whatever or like even a year for him to finish the climax of the book, that book would have been so much more satisfying and we'd still be waiting for wins. So like I think in hindsight it was a bad decision, but I am not George R. R. Martin. So Ryan says I'll keep you posted on my series order when I am done. Also, we have hit 2 hours here, and I am pretty thirsty, so I'm gonna end things here. Alex,
Cool.
thank you so much. Well, wait, Tanner is responding to my slander, I think. I've watched it before I read it. That's why I feel I responded so well to Feast and Dance because the story George is telling is so much bolder
Totally
and
agree
inventive
there.
than what the show tried to
I
do.
agree there.
I totally agree. Also, shout out to Jake. Jake has an order that I think I really want somebody to try it so bad because I think it's the best order for going into the series, which is read the first book, read the first 3 books, watch the entire show. I'm messing this up, but Jake has a thing. Now that I'm saying it, I realize I don't remember it well enough. But Jake has an idea of like
Watch
mixing the
only
show.
season 8.
Yeah, has of mixing the two so that you can like avoid spoilers the best, but get the best experience of the story. And I really want to see if that works on somebody. Jake says that's
He said
correct.
that's correct.
Okay, so yeah, because I do think reading Feast and Dance hit differently if you see that like, oh, George actually knows how to write a book. Like, yeah, books 1 to 3, all 8 seasons, book 4 and 5. I think
like
this would be fire. Yeah, I think this would be really good. Okay, so I'm gonna go. Thank you so much, everybody in the chat, for joining us. You guys were really lively. Had a lot of topics and conversations going. And Alex, of course, I talk to you like basically every day. You are one of my best booktube friends. Thank you so much for coming on here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And awesome. I promised we would talk about how tall you were in my little blurb. So how tall are you?
I am 6'8".
Wow, we're breaking new ground. Okay, but seriously, thank you guys so much for coming in, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Cool.
It's never goodbye. Everyone. It's just till next time.